of that system is going to behave exactly the way it would if it was happening in a vacuum in the lab, in order that you can isolate that one variable, right? So essentially, and he got this paper published before he even had his undergrad degree, right? Before he got his bachelor's. Published in a very reputable journal on chemical engineering science, right? So essentially, his model was predictive in the sense that he could reasonably predict that if you increase the diameter of the tubule, the rate of oxygen transport will go up, but there's no way to predict by how much, because if even one of your assumptions is off, if your cells grow in a line rather than a clump, right, or if they, if depending on what kind of scaffold you use or whatever, right, if one of those assumptions is off by 0.1%, it can throw all of your predictions off by an order of magnitude, because you're making, I don't know, a dozen assumptions as if, on the basis of this is what happens in a vacuum, in a lab, in a system with only 3 components to it, and now I'm putting it into a much more complex system. There is absolutely no way that they can model global climate using a computer model. None.
Karen?
Okay.
I've already started.
Well, why would you do that?
Because I wanted to see how long it would take you to notice.
But why would you do that?
Oh, because I'm an asshole?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Are you going to kiss this from now on?
Well, how long ago did it start?
About 2 minutes ago. We were talking about lines of cells and lines.
Well, yeah, no, but there's no way that you can make a model that big that will actually be predictive.
Okay. Are we no longer friends?
Absolutely no longer friends.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought it would be funny, but then you went into maybe I should just end this now.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go outside again to get my dog in, though.
Please put shoes on this time.
No, I won't have to step out into the snow. I had to step out into the snow to get her chain.
Okay, all right. So anyway, we're beginning. So you do that. You get your dog.
Oh,
you deal with your dog.
Well, she's not ready to come in yet.
No, she's not ready. Well, can't you make her ready?
No.
All right.
She has to do her thing. Otherwise, she's going to bug me the whole time.
Okay, I'll do the intro now.
No.
And yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so I guess the time of the intro has passed. So we'll just get right into it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. And I actually do feel really bad. I didn't realize where you were going. I was just like, this sounds like it's going to take forever, this explanation. Why do we need, or maybe we shouldn't do this just before the beginning of the show. And I was like, fuck it. Why don't I just start? And this is why. If anybody's wondering why the show always starts late, it's because Karen starts explaining how to model complex systems.
It's really not why the show always starts late.
Well, sometimes we're also talking about something else.
Mm.
But usually that's one reason. That's not always the reason. Karen's not always the issue.
That's certainly true. If I recall correctly, you were going and grabbing a bite to eat, and Mike was like, "Where is everybody?"
Aw.
Yeah. And yeah, no.
Now everyone's like, "Where's Mike?" Wow, I'm here.
Yeah, you are here. Okay, let's start. I mean, I think we have belabored the patience of our audience long enough.
Okay.
Or at least I have. I should have just said, Karen, you don't try to start explaining complex systems analysis concepts like 2 minutes after we should start the show.
Oh,
instead of being a dick.
You should not have been eating.
Yeah.
5 minutes before the show started.
Yeah.
Or at least you should have been eating with your headphones on and letting us listen to you chew.
I don't think anybody wants to listen to me chew. I mean, when I chew, it sounds like I'm like eating hamsters. It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah. Do they squeak?
No, I squeak. I don't actually eat hamsters. It's like I'm just trying to describe what I did.
Okay. Well, it can't sound worse than my mom eating salad. So.
Well, I don't have any idea what that sounds like.
Oh, you don't want to know.
I presume it would be really bad. Okay, let's get this thing started. Are you ready, Karen?
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, it doesn't give me the option to share with everybody. Why not?
Oh, I think I have to do something. Just give me a second.
Okay.
All right. There you go. You should be able to now.
Okay. Present to everyone. Okay, now does this look right?
Yes, this looks right.
Okay.
I think we're ready for takeoff.
Okay. Let's go. We're not going to be able to get this
Okay.
done in one shot.
No, we're not. We'll get as much as we can done. We'll stop at an opportune moment. And also, guys, we absolutely have to keep to the 10-second or the 20-second rule with the BBC, because we don't even know how long this will stay up, because they might actually try to slap us with a lawsuit or something, even though this is fair use, because this is criticism. So this is a transformative use of their original work, because we're criticizing it.
Yeah,
They don't give a shit.
Fucking ripping the shit out of it. All right.
In 2015 is not easy. 21st century pressures
This sounds very exciting.
are changing. No way. The way we live,
Women are seen as superior to men.
the way we love,
Oh, well, you know what's interesting? Did you see how he looked at the camera there?
Oh yeah, he's like, what the fuck?
That was an editing shot. That wasn't what he was actually reacting to. Actually, we don't know. He reacts later on to a different thing he says.
But even if it was an
Reacting
editing,
to anything there, basically.
even if it was an editing shot, they put that in intentionally to show that, oh my God, what a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, yeah.
Which is interesting, because me and Mike and Teal Dare were discussing the next A-ragening that we'd be doing with Teal Dare, and I found a video. We may have given up on International Men's Daily or News, or International Men's Day. Okay,
Yeah, it's a short film called International Men's Day, folks.
And
Not
it's
International Men's Day.
It's incomprehensible.
Yeah, no, I think you should leave that one alone, because, like, how do you even parse that?
Yeah, it's almost.
We tried. We
But
really
it's
tried.
trying to politically analyze, like, some lunatic in an asylum, like.
Yeah, it is a little bit difficult. So I suggest.
Lunatic made entirely of gooseberry jam.
Yeah. So what I decided to do was suggest right off the top of my head something I just randomly found, and it happened to be a thing, something published by the Globe and Mail, which is a Canadian thing, a Canadian news outlet, called "Why Men Should Be More Like Women." So yeah, there is quite a bit of women are superior to men, at least in the moral sphere.
Yeah.
In modern media.
Mhm.
I think that's undeniable.
Oh yeah.
And even and it runs a spectrum. I mean, that's sort of the light end of the spectrum. It's just simply saying that men should be more like women to be fully human.
Yeah, they have all kinds of synonymous ways of not saying women are superior to men. We're not saying women are superior. We're just saying men should be more like women. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
What?
That men, that if we, blah blah blah, then men, men. We should do this so that boys and men have permission to be human too, or some shit like that. Whatever it was Emma Watson said, right? Like, women are already human. Men need to do stuff to become human.
But we're not telling you what stuff. Well, yeah, at some point we'll give you permission. We promise.
No. She did tell them what they need to do. They need to pledge to end sexism and violence against women and girls.
Okay. And then there's that side which simply says that men need to be more like women to, become more human, or just better.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side that say, things like men are name the problem with a face of men, like a man's face on it.
Yeah.
Like, men are the problem about, everything. Global warming. Why women don't get jobs in certain areas. Why women have fewer cabinet seats. Men are the problem. Why we eat meat. That's because of men. That kind of thing. So there's a spectrum of stuff that sort of indicates that we think that women are superior.
Well, we do eat meat because of men, but that's why we're not living like bonobos right now. So
yeah,
there you go.
which is also sort of a good thing, because bonobos are really, really mean.
Well, not only that like they don't have any like language, complex language, no writing, no science, no complex social organization, no building, no food sharing really, no paternal investment in children. Just and because the only reason they are really still there is because number one, there are humans that protect them, and number two, the common chimpanzees north of the Congo haven't figured out how to swim yet. Because I can guarantee you, if common chimps did learn how to swim, bonobos would be gone probably within like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but that's a pretty good tangent there. You know, we went from women are superior to bonobo rape, or no, bonobo would be eaten.
Genocide, bonobo genocide.
Bonobo genocide.
Hmm?
It's excellent. Like I think that's probably our best.
Well, because common, like as peaceful supposedly as the bonobos are compared to common chimps are much more cooperative with each. They have a more cooperative system, which is why they have increased their territory and population rather than just remained like this obscure little species that only exists in this one little tiny pocket.
That happens to have an incredible amount of resources. Yeah.
It also has the natural barrier of the Congo shielding it from any kind of competition.
Okay, but be that as it may.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, if it just so happens you don't think men should be more like women, if you think men should simply be men, and you say so publicly, then the BBC will sting you in a documentary.
Oh, of course, of course. All right, moving right along.
Okay, that's as simple as that.
Even the way we look.
That's silicone. Yeah, this is mental.
In this series, I'm traveling to the extreme edge of modern British masculinity.
They basically said the only way you can stay is if you agree to be exercised.
Okay, pause. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that we keep the 20-second rule. This is a whole bunch of shit. I later learned that this really isn't about men's rights.
No, not.
It's about Manosphere. So there's not going to be a hell of a lot that's applicable, although it's interesting that they sort of put us all in the same pool.
Yeah, no, we're like in there with like Islamic fundamentalists, right?
Which doesn't even make any goddamn sense. Why didn't they put us in there with male feminists?
Like the particular brand of Islamic fundamentalists that exists in Britain, which is an extremely rigid brand of essentially of Sharia, right? And that's the dominant one in Britain, which is why they have such an issue there at the moment. So. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point here is, why would they put us in with, like, it's just like anything that has to do with men.
Yeah.
And they'll just put it in this bucket.
Yeah.
But not male feminists, because Michael Kimmel talks about men, and the Good Men Project talks about men. They also are to do with men, but they're not in this bucket.
Yeah.
Which seems interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something to how they chose to put the contents of the bucket.
Like when they do a documentary about women getting together and talking about what they like, do they do fucking Wiccans getting together and burning a cat and shit, or do they do the nicest feminist they can find?
Yeah.
Oh, and some of their blurb, like James mentions in the small chat, some of their blurb said it was about men's human rights. It was a bit misleading. No shit.
Yeah.
And also interesting that feminists who say that they're also advocating for men are not in this particular bucket. And I also don't think that Islamic fundamentalists advocate for men. They advocate for their ideological system.
Yeah.
Not men.
No. All right, moving on.
Out of it.
50 years after women began a march for equal rights, the battle of the sexes is being fought on a new front.
The state of gender relations is at its worst probably for 100 years.
Yes, it is.
Actually, I think 100 years ago, everybody was a lot happier and more polite.
Well, essentially, it's probably like because circumstances forced men and women to cooperate. So they really didn't have any choice but to engage in a cooperative role with each
Well,
other.
exactly 100 years ago, we were having a world war, so it's not the best example.
Well, which necessitates good relations with each other. It necessitates being able to get along, and it necessitates compromise on both sides, right? So prior to like maybe the 1850s, there was sort of a necessity for good relations between men and women.
Yeah.
And now, because if you don't want to cooperate with men, you can just get the government to pay for your shit or whatever.
And just to clarify, yeah, I did start this because people are saying this starts in mid-sentence. I did start it, and that was my fault. It's not Karen's fault. But I thought it was interesting because she was being so like it was fascinating, this analysis of systems, and she sounded like she's so technical. I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be great to start in on such a technical explanation and then have nobody know what the fuck it's about, and then everybody be like, what was that? What was that? And then there are some people who want you to go back to it and explain it. But I don't know. I don't think it'll happen. I think we need to get through this shit.
Well, if you want me to explain why I think that you can't model through a computer model anything as big as global climate, I can probably write something up.
Sure.
Just from my knowledge of how they model systems, very, very small systems in the lab, and how off the results can be, even in those small closed systems. So.
Yeah, I just thought it would be fun. I apologize to anyone who was thrown for a loop, and I also apologize to Karen. I realize now that I have been bad.
You've been very bad.
I perhaps need a spanking.
You do. And it's
Go on.
it's really analogous too, though, to the way that when you have individuals who claim that it's all sociological, it's all socialization, it's all political systems, it's all sort of institutions that are causing this stuff, causing female oppression and causing gender roles and things like that. No. Like society is an organism, and I mean, like, honestly, too much testosterone in a woman's body can result in her having like hirsutism, which is like hair growth, facial hair or excess body hair and things like that. But it can also result in hair loss depending on the levels of the other hormones that she has in her system, right? It's much too complex and much too interactive to say it's just testosterone. Her testosterone might be completely normal, but it's some other hormone that's out of whack that causes her testosterone to cause this thing because there's no counterbalance there or whatever, right? So I mean, like, to be able to say, to make it like a sociological analysis and sort of come to any conclusions about what we should do and to make a change and what the outcomes are going to be. And yeah, there's certainly not going to be any unintended consequences because we understand what the problem is. Yeah, no, you don't, right? I don't. Nobody does, right? There's too many factors, there's too many variables, there's too much interaction between all of those, right? You can't control for everything, right? And so there's just no way to do it. There's no way to know for sure what the problem is, how to solve it, and what the outcome is going to actually be.
No, I believe there's a simplistic analysis to all this. We can change traditional gender roles by making men take responsibility for society, everything, women, children. They'll totally do it.
Oh, yeah. No, like, just keep doing the same thing, and that'll totally eliminate gender roles. Like, fucking retarded. Anyhow, okay, moving on.
But this time, it's not by women.
Men rape. That's all we hear about, that men are rapists.
It's by young men.
Men are murdered more. Men are suicide more. Men are homeless more. Men are raped more in prison than women are, totally.
Yes,
Josh O'Brien. It's my boy, Josh O'Brien, on the BBC. Look at that.
Oh, no, that's awesome.
I want to know why so many young guys feel overlooked.
Women are no longer trained to submit to a man, to serve a man.
Is this Roosh?
Yeah, that's Roosh.
I've never actually seen him.
Oh, man, like, he's actually, I find him physically, he's quite appealing to me. But I always liked hairy men, so. Okay,
I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
I just noting that this is the first time I've ever seen Roosh, and I'm I am in an emotional state of I don't even, you know what, I'm just dug a hole in which I'm floundering. I find him meh.
Yeah,
And
no, well, like I said, I really like a hairy man, but
yeah,
and I find he's swarthy and
I thought you liked him bigger though.
I generally do, but there's the odd smaller guy that I find
Like
appealing.
meteor, not necessarily taller, but just
Yeah,
barrel-chested.
yeah, but as he goes,
Hairy is like tall, light.
Oh,
It's like almost being tall, but not quite. being
Hairy?
tall.
well, like a lot of women like a man who's like got no chest hair and and no arm hair and no knuckle hair or whatever, right? And I've never had it. I actually kind of like that. But as far as he goes, like I'm quite familiar with his work. A lot of people are like, "Oh my God, he's such a misogynist." I try to examine what he says in sort of is he correct or not? Is he actually being accurate or not? Is there anything to what he's saying or not? I try to separate myself from any kind of. I don't imagine that he's talking to me and saying you weren't trained to submit to a man, right? Yeah, no, I really wasn't, but
Okay with that.
yeah,
But
well,
the other thing is that they're missing an entire other side of the equation.
that's right.
The verse doesn't end with women submit to your husbands.
Yeah, no, it's topping from the bottom. That's
Yeah,
how
it's
women have gotten along through history was topping from the bottom.
so essentially the commandment to men was to sacrifice for your wife as Christ sacrificed for the church and gave himself up to and blah blah blah. So yeah, women are commanded to submit to men who are thus commanded to sacrifice everything for their benefit and well-being.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago, I pointed this out to a men's rights activist. He sort of cued into it immediately.
Mm.
Doesn't that mean that the men's expectation to sacrifice, that she's actually sacrificing for her own, like she's actually submitting to her own benefit and well-being?
Yes.
Like, because I mean, and that part of it just seems to be glossed over.
Yeah.
I mean, recently got into the fight with the skeptic feminists by pointing it out. It's like, yeah, women are commanded to submit, but they're submitting to someone whose highest religious calling is apparently to sacrifice everything for their benefit.
Yeah.
That's Karen put it succinctly. It's topping from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, even, I mean, really.
No,
Okay.
when you look at the protections that exist, even sort of under laws that are based on Sharia, like Iranian family law and things like that, right? There are protections built in, maybe not criminal protections built in to the family law regarding domestic violence against women, but there are definitely measures women can take under Iranian family law in order to put a stop to it, right? If there is, I think one of the articles of the law said if the situation in the home is such that there is substantial risk, physical or financial risk to the wife, or risk of injury to her dignity, then she may live alone, separately from him, at his expense, including the provision of servants if she has become accustomed to them. Right? So she is entitled to live in a separate residence at his expense in the lifestyle she's been accustomed to, and she is still technically his wife, so she can prevent him, because he needs her permission to take another wife. She can prevent him, she can essentially doom him to celibacy for the rest of his life. So unless a court orders her back, unless a court says this claim is frivolous, you need to go back, right? And so there are provisions, but there are no provisions within the family law regarding any violence the woman might commit against her husband.
Yeah.
There's no limits placed on it. There's no admonition against it. Right? There's no, he can't kick her out. There's no, if she beats him with a frying pan, he can put her in a separate residence at his expense. Not even that. He's not allowed to put her out of the house.
to answer somebody who spoke up in chat and said that women have to sacrifice freedom for this protection, generally you do have to sacrifice freedom for security.
Yes.
That's a truth for every human being on this planet. And furthermore, I'm not saying that this paternalistic system, and it is paternalistic,
Yes.
is necessarily valid or what we should do in the future. I'm saying that it's not quite as asymmetrical as certain people want to make it out to be.
That's right.
It's
and it may be in certain environments, in certain circumstances, extremely harsh ones, economically, where you're scraping by, where leaving your house is actually dangerous. It may well be that women see the sacrifice of their freedom as a very small one compared to the safety that they get out of the sacrifice of their men.
Yep.
So, anyhow, we should move on because I expect you to let me know when it approaches because I don't have a clock really at the moment. When it approaches 3 o'clock.
All right, I'll make you 3 o'clock?
Well, what time is it right now?
2:30. Oh, well, I guess it would be 1:30 your time. I thought it was 4 o'clock, you said.
Yeah, well, 4 o'clock is when I absolutely have to, the latest that I can be on. So.
Okay, all right. Well, let's at least try to get like the first 10 minutes done.
Okay.
Judged.
I think the UK, especially the media, needs to decide whether or not they want freedom of speech or they want to stop people being offended by comedy.
And under attack.
I thought this was a concerted attempt to shut men up.
And as growing numbers take to the internet.
Hello?
Okay, I was just pausing it to keep us out of the BBC's bad books.
And social media becomes a weapon of hate.
The things I can...
Social media becomes a weapon of hate. Like, are we talking about kill all men? Are we talking about I drink male tears? Are we talking about yes all women? Are we talking about name the problem? Are we talking about articles on the National Organization of Men Against Sexism, where a man writes an article suggesting that if you're one of those guys who tries to get custody of your children or access to your children over the wishes and objections of the mother, you're actually abusing her, and you should stop and just concede to her wishes. She obviously knows best. Right? Is that what we're talking about? Is that the kind of hate? Is that the hate campaign that we're talking about?
This is why people don't trust you, Reggie. This is why people think that you're out to get them, because when you don't like it, you call it hate. And it's as simple as that.
I don't think so, Karen. My instincts would say no.
You don't think that's what he's talking about? Okay.
No, I don't think that he can. I don't think there's anything that a woman could do that he would consider to be hateful towards men as a whole.
Oh well, because they're just joking, or it's harmless. Right?
Yeah, it's harmless because
women are powerless. Because women are powerless to actually act on that hate.
Yeah, it's and it's funny because nobody calls him out on his contempt of women.
Yeah, or his analysis of the women's lobby as some kind of pathetic, ineffective thing. Right? Oh, it's just a bunch of girls, right? It's just a bunch of girls. Why would we worry, right, about the way they've been tinkering with the fucking law for the last 50 years?
No, but, obviously a bunch of girls talking about men's rights, he must have some concern, because I noticed there may be a few things absent in this video. Although I don't know for sure, because I haven't seen the whole thing. I've been told, I heard in the chat that you're in here somewhere, so...
Oh, maybe they'll probably have used a clip or something like that. But what I find hilarious is, like, I was interviewed by the BBC like a year and a half ago, and it was a preliminary over-the-phone interview with a member of the production staff. And what they were planning was a TV segment on a morning show where I would come on over Skype in an interview, and then I would answer tweets and questions that they chose, people would send in and ask me, like, why do you do this or whatever, right? And I would answer those. And so it was going to be like a 20-minute segment or something like that on a BBC morning show. I forget what fucking channel it was supposed to be for, right? And I gave about an hour of interview to this guy. I recorded it, uploaded it to my channel. But then my phone sat and collected like dust and cobwebs, not ringing, right? Like they never contacted me again. They never called me back. It was just like, yeah, we decided we're not going to do this.
But
But that's okay. That's okay because like it's not indicative of media bias. No, not at all.
Yeah,
the echoes.
Okay.
Just let me. Hello.
Hello.
Oh shit!
Oh shit!
It's
It's
really
really on your end.
Yeah, it's on my end.
This is what I just noticed that you don't really talk to female men's rights activists ever in this situation, but women, unless they're advocating for men's rights, what women say is completely irrelevant, or doesn't have to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I guess they think that we are speaking with all the force of the patriarchy.
Oh God, yeah. No, we're so submissive.
What's really funny is, like I said, they think that we're speaking with all the force of the patriarchy. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It seems pretty fucking hard. Like building up a platform. You know what? It's a slow work. If you're any men's rights activist will admit it. It's not an easy sell. The concept is just not what people want to hear. It's a hard sell. So you have to work at it.
Yeah.
And what I see is that like in the time that me and Karen and Hannah have been trying to build this particular platform, we've seen someone like Anita Sarkeesian go from 50,000 to 200,000 subs, end up all over the media, get to the UN.
$700,000.
Yeah. And that's in as we are just, and I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying the obvious differential here. When a woman plays the role of victim, yeah, that's up, lickety split, up the ziggurat.
Oh yeah, no, they lap it up. They're like, oh my God, this tastes like pussy.
Yeah, when you don't, it's a little bit of a harder road. So I would disagree that necessarily we're more dangerous because the patriarchy's got our back. Because I don't, yeah,
well, the patriarchy, whether it has our back or not, is obviously ineffective, right? So,
yep.
I have to wonder how it can be the force that imposes itself on all of our lives when.
I do have the power of the patriarchy behind me. Watch this. I'm going to click my fingers and all the patriarchists will appear at my feet. Boom! And they are.
I know. Actually, is Anita Sarkeesian there? Because she takes.
There's nobody here on account of nobody anywhere.
She takes full advantage.
As a patriarchist.
She takes full advantage of patriarchal values, right? Like this is what drives me crazy is that that feminism is just the female gender role dialed up to 11. That's all it is, and the imposition of the traditional role on the man to accommodate the woman's wishes, to accommodate what the woman needs. That's all patriarchy is women needing shit and men giving it to them.
Yeah, I use the word patriarchist now to try and sort of figure out the name for the kind of person who believes in patriarchy. And we've been trying to call feminism a religion, and we've never figured out their god.
Yeah.
But I think if you put two and two together, a person who supports patriarchy is not called a patriarchist. A person who supports patriarchy is called a feminist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and they're the light in the way, and they'll show you the path to true salvation. Just ask Emma Watson. All right, moving on.
Do to you, smiley face, dumb bitch.
I want to find out why a new generation of men thinks the real victims of sex discrimination are guys.
Nobody has ever fucking said that men are the real victims, or the only victims, or the sole victims, or the actual victims, or what. Just that they actually are subjected to sexist expectations too. What the fuck is it with this black and white thinking? And they accuse us of zero-sum thinking constantly. They accuse us, MRAs, of zero-sum thinking. You know why? Because they project their zero-sum thinking onto us, right? I just had a fucking indication of that in a Facebook page called Men's Rights Activism. Please don't go there, anyone. If you do go there to read things, don't actually leave a comment, because I really don't want that bullshit. I'm trying to arrange an off-page debate with the person who runs that page, and I really don't want... I wanted to remove it from that venue because I don't want anybody jumping in from either side. But in the negotiations as to how we're going to conduct this debate, there's this guy who came in and started demanding of me that I explain how I could possibly believe that men in the Middle East are more oppressed than women. I don't. I've never said that. I have never ever said that. I have never ever said that men are more oppressed than women, that men are oppressed by women, that even that men are oppressed by feminism. I have never ever said that. I have never said that men are the only victims, the true victims, the real victims of sexism, just that they are also victims. Just that under Islamic systems in the Middle East, men do not have blanket privilege, that the privileged, oppressed paradigm is a backward way of thinking, that both men and women have advantages and disadvantages, and that things aren't all rosy and wonderful for men, and that women help construct and uphold and perpetuate the systems that keep both men and women locked in those roles. That is all I have ever fucking said, and what they come back with is, how can you possibly say that men are more oppressed than women?
Can I point something out, Karen?
Yes.
Once again, recently I got into an argument on Twitter, which is the worst place to have some sort of coherent conversation with anyone, with a skeptic feminist.
That's why I stay off of it, right?
Yeah, and during this conversation, I was like, this is so unproductive, but it's like you get sucked in. So when I God, that echo is really annoying. Okay, so while I was in this argument with them, I pointed out that the situations that they were representing with fundamentalist religions for men and women were distorted, that there were expectations and responsibilities that were put on men that were reciprocal, that created much more of a reciprocal relationship between men and women. And when I said that, they said, Alison says that men are more oppressed in the Middle East, and men are more oppressed in fundamentalist Christian societies. I'm like, no, they immediately went to that. I'm like, that's
It's
not
classic
what I said.
conspiratorial thinking. When people are absolutely convinced of a conspiracy theory, I've talked about it in one of my videos. They become fractally wrong. Like whatever you say to disprove their particular conspiracy theory, they can simply cast as the opposite conspiracy theory. Like if my conspiracy theory is false, then the opposite conspiracy theory must be true. Because they can't work any other way.
It makes it impossible to argue. And all I was advancing was the fact that this is a black and white way of thinking about gender systems in cultures that you don't really have a direct understanding of. And so, and the other thing is that apparently because I said that, for example, Islam wasn't necessarily that great for men either, or that fundamentalist Christianity wasn't that great for men either, somehow I was supporting fundamentalism and supporting fundamentalist. No, if I think that Pat,
you're a men's rights activist, and if you think a system is bad for men, somehow you're advocating for it?
Yes, but
how do you even wrap your head around that?
Well, I'm going to use an example. If I think that Pat punches Jack in the face, and also Jill, the fact that I'm pointing out that Pat punched Jack in the face doesn't mean that I'm okay with Pat punching Jill in the face, or I think that he's less of an asshole. I mean, the fact that I'm pointing out additional harm that these fundamentalist religions do to people, which isn't necessary, and the thing is that I understand that they're systems that worked in their time and place. If we can get past them, we should. The point that I'm making is that if I'm pointing out harm that's done to both men and women, that is not saying that they're thus good. How does that work?
I know they're fucked up. They're fucked up. They're absolutely they cannot understand the world except under a model of one group is privileged and the other is oppressed. So if you actually say men are disadvantaged, you can even avoid the word oppression, right? Men are disadvantaged under the system, right? Oh, so you're saying women are privileged, right? Or if you say women are privileged in some ways under this system, or that gender privilege is a much more complex thing than, say, race privilege or tribal privilege, nationality privilege, like those kinds of religious privilege, right? If you are a member of a religious majority, and then you obviously have privilege, and some of those privileges are written into law. You know, you look at the dhimmi in Middle Eastern countries. So yeah, even when you're tolerated as a Jew or a Christian, you have to pay extra taxes, and there are laws that apply to you that don't apply to Muslims, and you know, restrictions on you and stuff like that, right? That's obviously top-down, one-way oppression, right, or disadvantage to those minority groups. But when you talk about gender oppression and you actually look at the aspects of gender privilege or the ways we view men and women, and you think, okay, well, you know, we don't take women as seriously as we take men, and that makes them less likely to become powerful CEOs of Fortune 500 companies or the President of the United States. However, it also makes them less likely to be arrested when they commit a crime, less likely to serve a long sentence when they attack somebody, right? It allows them to be treated more courteously and more gently, right, in a whole host of other ways, right? This one perception that we have of women, that we don't need to take them as seriously as we take men, right? Men are going to get harsher sentences. Men are that expectation that we can expect to take you seriously as a competent person, right? That means that women, when they're homeless, get more help than men do, right? So it's a little bit more complex. Like when you're talking about whites and blacks under Jim Crow, right? There was no, oh yeah, but blacks, you know, blacks are treated less harshly by the justice system, right? And blacks live longer than whites, and blacks actually get more education than whites. No, none of that applied, right? And oh, what crimes by whites against blacks were taken much more seriously than the reverse, right? No, not at all, right? It's a completely different fucking system of perceptions.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, how on earth is it that we are looking at gender in black and white terms as if men lived on one side in the northern hemisphere and women lived in the southern hemisphere, and then all of a sudden at some point like 10,000 years ago the men just invaded and colonized and enslaved all the women? That's essentially what feminism is saying gender relations are like.
I think we still have an issue with that.
Okay.
It's particularly bad today. Yeah, it's well, one of the things that I'm wondering about that particular psychology is by pointing out how a particular fundamentalist religion also harms men, and then being told by the feminist that I'm arguing with that means that I'm actually saying that fundamentalist religion is a good thing, or that I'm saying I'm defending it. I wonder if they're actually inadvertently displaying sort of a psychological quality that I've noticed, or actually a motivation. You know what? I should just call it a phenomenon, which is that we think an issue is less important. Like if there's a situation where both men and women are harmed, we actually consider it less important than if only women are harmed. And so by presenting fundamentalist religions as harming both men and women, I'm actually saying they're less harmful. And that is fucked up.
Yeah, no, but it's absolutely true. It's absolutely 100% true. Right? That's how we see things. If something isn't uniquely harmful to women, then it's less harmful overall.
Okay, let's get through another minute, because I don't even think we're going to make 10 minutes.
Even if it costs more lives. Okay, moving on.
I'm pretty confident that women's issues are being dealt with. Men's issues, not so much.
You notice they call it men at war. Like, it's the fucking same thing as before. When you don't like it, you call it hate, and you know when women are doing it, you call it love, and when men are doing it, you call it war. When someone disagrees with you, you call it a fucking war. Yeah, that's not us doing that. It's you. When someone disagrees with me, I call it a disagree. Well, don't call it anything. I just have the fucking argument.
Yeah.
Well, something else that I notice is they'll probably attempt to trot out as extreme or damaged people as possible to represent the movement without considering that a movement has legitimacy because of the damage that's being done to the group of people that it's advocating for. So of course you're going to find damaged people when legitimate problems are happening. So, but they don't look at those damaged people and say, hey, these problems are really, really bad. They look at them and they say, well, whoa, these damaged people totally legitimize your entire movement because because the damage is. How does that work?
It's just because it's men, Alison. When women en masse in the second wave were like, my dad beat me, I was sexually assaulted, I'm a damaged person and I've been damaged by men, and the personal is political, and so that means I'm gonna project my damage onto all of society. So I'm gonna conclude that if my dad was a shit, then all men are shit, right? And it's the entire system that allowed him to do that, even though that may not be the case, but you know, I'm gonna project my damage onto the entirety of society, right? And we were like, oh, that seems justified, right? Oh, you know, it's these poor women, right? Whereas with men, and it is really like Tom Golden said, you know, like when men bring up their pain, when men, you don't feel sorry for them, you just want to get away from them. When they bring up their anger, you're just like, oh, he's scary, right? And when they freaking bring up their disadvantage, you're just like, but you're powerful. But you have all the power. So how could you be? It must be your fault if you're at a disadvantage. Must be something you did.
Yeah, when women complain, we treat them as though they're all people, and when men complain, we treat them as though they are no people.
Yeah.
It's just, I just find it ironic. Oh, look at these damaged men advocating for their rights, or advocating for treatment, or advocating to end the things that have damaged them. That totally illegitimizes their entire movement because they're acting like they're damaged.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Monday morning, the perfect time for a lecture by a man who teaches guys how to get more sex.
Okay, maybe we could skip Roosh.
No, I want to see what he has to say.
Okay. Well.
So what I wanted to talk about today is having sex with girls you don't really like. I probably am not going to spend more than a couple hours just to access their warm, moist cavity holes.
Oh, Rouge, you're so charming.
He got that onto the BBC. You got to hand it to him.
Yeah. Well,
why are you having sex with women you don't like? Isn't that sort of pathetic?
You know, if the goal is to have sex, who cares if you like them? Anyhow, moving on.
Rouge made his name as a so-called pickup artist, writing guides for young men on how to sleep with women around the world.
He's got a book called 30 Bangs.
Okay, so what's the problem with that? 30 bangs?
I don't even understand why that's funny. This, like...
He's just shocked. He's just shocked that there's a book out there called 30 Bangs about, like, 30 times a guy got laid and how he did it.
Well, should he have called it Consume, Meditate, and Desire?
I don't...
Some shit, like Eat, Love, Pray is what I was going for, but, like, synonyms.
Or whatever, yeah. No, it's because it's very straightforward, and it's very, the sort of methods of pickup artists are designed to be... designed specifically to be, you know, sort of accessible, systematic, predictable, right? All of those things, that there's a formula there, and it really isn't about those sort of touchy-feely emotions in Eat, Pray, Love. Women can afford to be touchy-feely about sex because they can get sex, if you're even remotely attractive, you can get sex like lots as a woman, right? So you don't need to approach it as a system with like a set of goals. You can approach it like a sort of a spiritual discovery because it comes easy to you getting sex as a woman.
Well, and the other thing is that the sex that women get is quantitatively different because their partner will no doubt have expressed considerable amounts of desire for them, which I would say argues probably a lot of the reasons why human beings are motivated to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is to feel desirable, to feel acknowledged as a fellow human being. And I think this is as true for men as it is women, judging from the studies into when men get that dopamine response. It's when a woman is looking at them, not when they're looking away. So I think that the problem is that you're comparing. I think the average woman's sexual experience is like a buffet of feeling desired. The average man's sexual experience is like getting a dry crust of bread and a bowl of water. There you go. Because she's gonna extract as much desire out of you as she possibly can while giving as little as possible.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well,
anyway,
it's just that's just the way it is. All right, moving on. At least at this point.
Bang Ukraine, bang Iceland, bang Poland, bang Lithuania. Don't bang Denmark.
Yeah, don't bang Denmark.
Apparently
probably
Denmark.
why.
Don't bang Denmark. I think it was essentially that the women there were just really difficult for him to, finagle and.
I believe the wage gap is in women's favour in Denmark. They might be the first country in the world to go the other way.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. That women are actually becoming dominant in that culture, and so it's just harder to convince them. So.
What I don't understand why he's spending so much effort in reading these titles.
Well, because they're shocking, and this is the BBC. This is network TV.
People find this shocking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, people who've never been exposed to anything like this before would find it shocking, I'm sure. Right? My dad would be laughing. My dad would be just like fucking holy shit, right?
This was the kind of thing that would have been on British sitcoms in the 90s. I swear to God. Oh, this lad culture was normal and funny, and everyone was like on board and it's harmless fun and shit. Cut to 20 years later, and you might as well be talking about a fucking satanic death cult.
It's the gravest ill in British society right now. Like you guys have had like 10 or 15 years of news stories and news media and social media and all of that about lad culture and how horrible it is and how it demeans women and all of this. All these chav guys, right? They're like they're hoodlums, they're thugs, they're violent and they treat women like shit and they're rapists and all of this stuff. They're badly behaved, they're boorish and harmful, right? You have like maybe 1/10 as many news stories and opinion pieces about ladette culture, and most of them talk about how these ladettes, right, they're just taking their cues from the lads. So it's really the lad culture at fault, right? Because if not for lad culture, we wouldn't even have ladette culture, right? And on top of that, right, then you have this whole thing where due to racial sensitivity concerns, the only people who are really seen on these news stories behaving badly are white young men and women. And so then they wonder why young white men are the most reviled population, according to a recent YouGov survey, the most reviled population in the entirety of the UK, right? That there are the most negative perceptions about young white men out of any other group, including young Islamic men, right, in the entirety of the UK, right? And it's because we've had this culture where the only people we're really allowed to criticize and never give any excuse, right? So the ladettes, they have their excuse. They're just following the example of the lads. And, when you have a race riot, well, they have justifiable racial anger. And when you have, black men behaving badly. Oh, well, it's due to poverty and their circumstances, and pervasive racism in society and all of this. So we're supposed to feel sorry for these other groups when they behave badly, and the one group that is allowed to be criticized, carte blanche, no excuses, no nothing, right, is young white men. And then they wonder, oh, what a surprise, young white men, the British public looks at them more negatively than any other group in society.
Oh, well, how could I feel bad?
How could this be? I thought white men were privileged.
Okay, I'm just going to mute you for a sec because we're having echo issue again. And I wanted to point something out how is young white men are the most reviled in your society, and yet you're surprised when they get a little upset about that. My God, they're revolting. Why would they do this thing? They're so revolting, and they're revolting. Oh my God. It's like it's so impossible to understand why this would have happened.
And a tiny percentage of them, because of these conditions, develop the drive and they get up and go to sort of get good, high-paying jobs and run the country and shit.
Yeah,
rise above the stigma.
You put all this emotional training on men to deal with the constant stream of abuse, and it's surprising that they succeed in professions where you have to actually deal with a constant stream of negative emotion, either stress or abuse and criticism. Yeah, that's totally surprising. The other thing I wanted to point out is these people don't seem to have an understanding of supply and demand. Do you really think the lads are the ones who are driving lad culture? Let's do a thought experiment. Let's imagine tomorrow every woman in the UK suddenly discovered that they had a fetish for tweed and men who drink tea and discuss philosophy. What the fuck do you think would happen?
Yeah.
Overnight, you would be sold out of tea, tweed, and philosophy books.
And leather elbows.
Yeah. And so no, it isn't lads that are driving lad culture. Maybe to a degree. But I'm imagining that the ladettes has something to do with it.
Yeah, just a bit.
Just a bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, honestly, if Roosh can bang 30 fucking women, if Roosh can bang Iceland and bang fucking Poland and all of that, well, there's a reason for that. Obviously, he's successful in some way at convincing women to go to bed with him. And as far as I know, I have never heard of any allegation of rape against him. So, obviously, these women are interested, attracted, consenting, right? Dare I say, enthusiastically consenting, giving their ongoing enthusiastic consent. And I've read stuff on pickup artist sites that essentially say if she's not screaming for you to continue, then it's like you shouldn't be there.
Okay, that's good advice. Although the other playing devil's advocate is the other answer to this is he's lying, and they don't exist.
I doubt it.
Eh.
I really doubt it. I really doubt it. I think he does get lucky in those ways, in those places, and I do think he struck out in Denmark just for a variety of reasons. So.
Okay.
All right.
To return to my earlier point, we understand the dynamic of how you treat parents and how you treat children, right? You can criticize parents, you can't criticize children, for obvious reasons. So
why not?
Well, because parents are responsible for their children in that way when they're at a particularly young age. So
I don't know. I've walked into the kitchen at work and asked the rhetorical question of the rest of the staff, have any of you ever wanted to punch a baby in the face? Because I'm really feeling like an urge. Because that little fucking 2-year-old prince out there who's been screaming nonstop for the last hour and 15 minutes, yeah, he needs something.
But you know what I mean? It's generally accepted that we put different levels of, responsibility on parents and on their children, and indeed on adults and on children. So if we're in a situation where we're treating white men like they can be criticized, and we're treating everyone else like they can't be criticized, then we're treating white men like adults and everyone else like children. And then you wonder why white men grow up to be responsible adults and everyone else grows up fucking rioting.
Well, not just responsible adults, but assuming positions of responsible adulthood.
Yeah.
And that would be, and then they turn around and say, "Oh my God, look at all of these white men assuming positions of adult responsibility."
Look at the privilege. Look at all their unearned privilege.
Well, you sort of, when you give them all the responsibility, you sort of fast track them to those positions. Maybe. Okay. Let's. People are saying we won't even get to the 5-minute mark at 2 hours. Let's prove them wrong.
The civil rights group included Rouge on a list of websites they branded hateful and misogynistic.
See, I like that smug look on his face.
British girls are busted. You know they're not that old, but they just look old, like they've been working in a factory or coal mine their entire lives.
But he hasn't let that hold him back. He's now on a world tour.
All right.
Well, just have to.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's said anything too egregious yet. If British women are looking older than they are, maybe it's due to their lifestyles.
Yeah, that's entirely possible, and also entirely irrelevant, at least to our perspective. So I'm not. I mean, at least mine. I'm about.
I can assure you the men are just weathered over here.
Well, men are
weathered
allowed
by
to,
the weather, as it were.
Men are allowed to be weathered and still sexy. I mean, just think about Clint Eastwood, right? Or
some of us like a bit of weather on a woman too. I'll have you know.
Okay, let's. Like I said.
Are you hitting on me, Doctor?
I'm hitting on all of you.
Oh, that's a backhanded compliment there, friend.
Yeah. I'm all.
Are we weathered enough for you, good doctor?
Is my skin leathery enough for you?
You are damn right it is.
Though from the sounds of it, he's expecting trouble. He's actually kept the venues that he's doing his events at a secret. Up until the very last minute. According to his website, the reason is that he's worried about feminists. Is what he's doing and saying so offensive that people are going to try and shut him
down? No. See, here you go. Here's your first clue, Reggie. You don't have to be saying anything offensive in order for feminists to shut you down, right? So you might as well just go whole hog. You might as well just be as offensive as you possibly fucking can. Because if you have the name, you might as well have the game.
I personally don't let feminists decide how I'm going to act or behave or react, but...
Well, I've just looked at it like, I used to be very careful about how I said things and stuff like that, and now I'm not. I'm absolutely not, and I refuse to be, because you're going to get just as vilified for saying something in the most careful way as you are for saying something in a blatant and in-your-face way.
Then you actually get vilified more, because I know for a fact that I got on the block bot before you, or at least on a higher tier. Isn't that fucking amazing?
Considering how, teeny tiny your channel is compared to mine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really fucking crazy.
You have very dangerous ideas. You have very harmful opinions.
No, but I've never actually been like Karen said. She's not interested in playing their game, which I totally understand and I totally appreciate. And and I've never really been. First of all, I'm not very high profile at all, so I was startled. But also, I'm not aggressive as such. At least not on my channel. And I never tweeted, so it was just weird.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, you're right. I'm using that as an example. No matter how nice you are, they will they don't like the concepts. Period.
Well, they don't. If you call yourself an MRA, you call yourself an anti-feminist, or even if you call yourself a non-feminist, I believe in equality, but I'm not a feminist, right? you are a target, right? And I think it's the people in the middle, right? The people who say, well, I'm not a feminist, but I believe in equality, that they get more mad at than the people who are actually diametrically opposed. They have sort of, other than the really crazy ones, like Futrell and Sale Polani and Deb Magil and My Lampstand and various other really, really freaking rabid individuals. Most of mainstream feminism just leaves me alone.
All right, I'm just going to respond briefly to the chat because someone said, "Oh snap, Karen." I think when she remarked that I'm significantly smaller than. Well, it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing oh snap about it. It's obvious. So.
Well, it's because your ideas are a little bit more esoteric, and I think that they're actually I've expanded on or used, springboarded off of some of those ideas. Like they're like, I would recommend Alison's channel to anybody trying to understand a lot of this stuff.
And I would recommend Karen's channel to anybody who wants people who are not who wants to actually explain stuff to people who aren't willing to sit down and really. They're not. Fuck! How can I do this without sounding like an asshole?
It's a little more accessible.
Yeah, who need things to be a bit more accessible. Who are just dipping a toe in the waters, as to speak. Because she can.
I've been springboarding off both of these two and all of the honey badgers for the past 2 years. People often wonder where the hell I get all my ideas. Where the fuck do you think? I eat what these guys give me and then I vomit it back out in my own little way. I'm not doing this by myself.
Yeah, and the thing is that when I put my esoteric ideas out, I am trying to take something that even I find I can barely wrap my lobes around, and I'm trying to pull it to some place where people like Karen and Mike might be able to get something out of it that they can use to make it more comprehensible. That's I totally understand that, because I mean a lot of this stuff I'm just holding on with my pinky like with the tips of my fingers trying to pull this out of wherever the ether and just to a place where people who've thought about this a long time can start to grasp where I'm coming from. And
well, sometimes you can feel it in your matrix, right? Because it really is like a matrix in your head. This sort of it really is a matrix of interconnected factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are all playing off each other, and there are sometimes when you know that this one on the bottom left is directly causally connected to this one on the top right. But and you just know it. You just intuitively know it, and you can actually in your brain, in the sort of the nonverbal part of your brain, you can see the path of causality, right? But then trying to translate it into words and make it even seem remotely comprehensible, or so that anybody else could follow it, it's really fucking hard sometimes.
Yeah, so like I said, I know my place, and it's just trying to reach those concepts and pull them a little bit closer. And then hopefully somebody else will be able to pull them even closer.
Yeah, it's not easy work. Holy shit. Takes a lot of brain power, which is why I actually sometimes forget to feed my children and stuff. So not really. Yeah. Don't say that. She'll hear and she'll start barking.
Okay, let's get through another 20 seconds.
Okay.
The aim of the talk is the state of man. One of the first bullet points in terms of what his speech will contain is something about the paradox of modern women. It feels like it's a lot broader than here's how to chat up the lady that you fancy at the bar.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound any more complicated. The paradox of modern women is surely the title heading for how to pick up women, Reggie, right?
No. Because I've actually read some fairly insightful social commentary from pickup artists, Heartiste, and even at Return of Kings, I've read some articles on there that are quite insightful regarding systems and sociology and how things work politically and stuff like that. Right, so I wouldn't necessarily jump to the conclusion that this is just all about picking up women. I think that there is going to be a broader social context to this. So.
Yeah. See, I love the subtle. It's a little subtle insult there that you're giving these. I mean, even on Return of Kings, I've found something that's vaguely intelligent.
Yeah. No, but like, because a lot of it really is just to do with how to pick up women, how to, but a lot of that's not all it is, right? And like I've gotten into trouble with MRAs before, like being friendly with people who favor traditionalism, who are just like, well, this is the only system that's really been shown to actually work and get anything accomplished, right? Being friendly with those people. Like, I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to all men, whether that's Stardust, right, who's like sort of the radical MGTOW male separatist. I would just rather hang out at home and think about things, and essentially be not an involuntary celibate, but like a monk. He's more interested in the cerebral questions of human behavior, right? And then going into like a pickup artist community or the red pill or whatever, and find out what they have to say. Like, I want to hear all of these opinions, because essentially they're all describing at least part of what's going on. And I don't have any animosity towards any of them. I don't have any animosity towards Stardust for saying, yeah, no, I just can't be bothered with women because they just don't seem worth the trouble. I'm not personally insulted by the fact that he just said I'm not worth his bother, like any more than I'm, offended by Roosh saying, women want to submit to the cock deep down and society tells them they don't, or whatever, right?
What's offensive about that?
Even if it isn't true, it's just an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just something to discuss rationally. Oh my goodness.
Oh, is it the echo?
It is that time again.
God fucking damn it.
You gotta do something about your shame cave. It's echoing.
Well, I can't do anything about it if I'm going to be presenting to everybody.
Okay, there we go. That should do it. Just take the finger off the button.
Okay. Here we go. We're going to play some more. Look at him. Look at how, like, carefree he is. Because you know what? He's never going to appear on the news breaking a fucking car window or something, in a story about lad culture, right? Or getting into a fight. Because even if he did that, right, the press wouldn't dare fucking put his picture up there, because that would instill racial tensions.
On the outside, it doesn't look like anyone's about to storm the doors.
Well, yeah, because you know why? Because he didn't reveal the location until the last fucking minute.
But inside, I'm starting to notice a real atmosphere. Thanks. I'm not sure anyone wants me here.
Yeah, no, they don't. I wonder why.
We've already agreed not to show the faces of anyone who wants to remain anonymous. I'm pretty sure that this is the first time I've filmed anywhere where everyone insists on it. Roosh's topic today is the state of man. Maybe it's more controversial than I expected.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just pausing because I paused.
Let's get to some actual meat.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in front of the queue. I just want to say thank you for having us here, man. A lot of people have turned up today to hear you speak.
The reason I came here is because the percentage of English men who read me is very large. And that is a weird thing because I'm not from here.
Okay, I'm only stopping because of the thing.
The problem is, men are not allowed to speak the views that I am speaking. It takes an outsider to come here and not be afraid of the hate crime laws that you guys have to give the truth. And so I wish there were more men here who could share their views. But
Earn Hudson's Bay rewards points.
Okay, I gotta look at all the fucking ads they have.
Everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Redeem your points for a gift card. And
Sorry, I think we got a little bit of a... I muted you, Karen, because of the ad, but you got sorry. That was dumb. Okay. Well, you can certainly tell their priorities, though, with all those fucking ads. Like, there's an ad every 5 minutes. And the other thing is that I suspect, and Karen may this, I suspect that the reason why his audience is so packed is those guys want to get laid. And he's telling them how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really doesn't have anything to do with he's saying things that nobody can say. I think it mostly has to do with the fact that he's telling people that he's telling men that he can get them laid. Whether or not that's true, I'm not going to say, because I'm not.
You know, I think as well too. And here's what I've found in the pickup artist community and the red pill, the red pill community, is that there is a sort of a blanket affirmation of masculinity. Right? And sometimes it plays out in this sort of like don't be a beta cuck or whatever, right? But there is this sort of unapologetic attitude toward men behaving like men wanting to get laid, men wanting to be successful, men wanting to be assertive, men wanting to be confident, men wanting to be to improve their skills, to be more charming and get ahead and all of those things. There's no guilt attached to that in these communities, and that's a huge fucking thing, because it seems in the broader culture what you have when it comes to men sort of being ambitious and trying to be successful and all of that is they're made to feel guilty because they're taking an opportunity away from a woman, or they're scaring her, or they're requiring her to be subordinate, or they're demeaning her, or whatever. So it's essentially what these communities seem to give a lot of men is sort of a celebration of masculinity in its sort of raw form, in its sort of all of its, it's not always pretty, but it can still be celebrated, right? And so I think that's why these particular communities, this is I think why the red pill has grown at a much faster rate than our men's rights. It's because of that. There is nothing wrong with being masculine. There is nothing wrong with being a man. And that really appeals to a lot of men, particularly men who want to get laid.
I would say that in some ways. Oh goodness.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Let me try. I would say in some ways that you could see that same kind of desire, at least to have a recognition of the power of masculinity in feminist circles. Because even though there's a hell of a lot of guilt attached to feminist circles, they also have an incredible sense that the male is the most powerful entity in the world, in society. So it's interesting. And the thing is that wanting to be more confident, wanting to be more capable, wanting to be more innovative, I don't understand why guys don't realize they just are.
Yeah, but I think what we have is we have a society that has essentially told men that they should feel guilty for being those things, that those things are their unearned privilege, that when they are ambitious, innovative, creative, all of those things that you're talking about, fuck dog, that for fuck's sake, they should feel guilty about that, because what they're doing is they're taking opportunities away from women, or they're trying to show up women, or they're trying to lord it over women, or they're trying to dominate women, or they're trying to harm women, or anything. They're like the whole thing about the pickup artist community and the red pill is it's like essentially all about men learning how to be attractive to women. It's essentially the equivalent of a woman going on a makeover show, like What Not to Wear, right?
Which is why I don't understand why it's controversial.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing, like there's this, but it's a manipulation, right? It's a manipulation, and therefore it's rapey, right? Because these men aren't really, they're just learning how to fake confidence, and you know, and they're learning all of the tricks and stuff. So you have books like The Rules for Women, right? Where it gives women like all of these strategies when they're dating, you know, like, oh, never text him first and never call him, be the one to call him back after a date, and, you know, for the first little while, never do a Saturday night date, and always wait like 20 minutes or like an hour or whatever before you text him back, or whatever, right? Like all of these rules. Never give him sex on, you know, until the fourth date or whatever. Always insist that he pay for the meals, and all of these things, right? All of these rules to keep his interest, to make him attractive to her, sort of in a long-term relationship context, right? And then you have, and that's all well and good, because luring and manipulating men into committing to marriage or whatever, that's fine, because, you know, that's all good. Right, and it benefits women, and it's, you know, and whatever. But what these pickup artists are doing is they're teaching men how to take advantage of women sexually. So.
I wonder if he was simply doing like what Apple does and just hiding the locations of his conferences because of just building up a mystique too. Well, it's good
after his altercation in Montreal, I don't think so. I don't think it's just about that, because like not only did they like throw drinks on him and threaten him, they like followed him down the street, they followed him to his hotel, they tried to get into his hotel lobby, follow him in there. So yeah, no, I think he has genuine reason to actually be careful.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
I was just wondering if we should skip ahead to the bit about men's rights advocates. We've got like half an hour left.
Well, we have an hour and a half left, unless Karen absolutely has to leave at 3. But yeah, that might be a good thing, because it's like, yeah, I just don't, it's not really relevant.
I want to get the full context. I really do. I think that, like, this entire thing was put together as one thing, and I want to actually see how they portray men's rights advocates in the context of everything that they've portrayed up till then. Right?
Okay, can we just get through Roosh as quickly as possible?
Okay.
We all know that people are going to go after their jobs and shame them.
You've got all shapes and sizes in here. It is really a broad spectrum as well in terms of race and background. And
it would be.
Actually feels quite excitable in here, you know. There's a room full of men who are excited about what they're about to hear. So am I.
Something has happened in the past 50 years.
Sorry, I'm just pausing it because I lost track of the counter.
Where women are no longer trained to submit to a man, to serve a man. The very idea of beauty and aesthetics is being demolished to where now women are being applauded and encouraged to look like fat, outer space cyborgs.
I don't see anything false or misleading about this, really.
Outer space cyborgs, ooh.
He used rhetorical language, you see, and what do we call it when someone in the Manosphere uses rhetorical language?
Oh, it's literal.
Misogyny, yes, and all that bollocks.
They're literally Hitler. He's literally Hitler, except he doesn't hate the Jews. He hates the fat cyborgs.
Only we use rhetoric. Only we use poetry. When they do it, it is bad to think.
There you go. All right, moving on.
Women and gays are seen as superior to straight men. Anything that a woman or a gay person wants is theirs. But anything you want, sorry, we cannot help you.
I don't see how this is that inaccurate, at least in terms of the progressive
Identity politics?
Yeah.
No, he's being completely accurate, and he's also sort of accurate to the male role. I mean, if you want something, the traditional male role is if you want something, you have to go out and get it.
Yeah, you can't just expect it to be handed to you.
Yeah. So so far it's a little bit innocuous. So let's.
Yeah. No, and this guy looks dubious. He's like, what? But whatever.
All of you here are seen as rapists. You have to be taught how not to rape by a feminist who is really fat.
Now,
Now that is an editing fucking hack job if ever I've seen one. You saw it cut right out after he said that?
Yeah, no, but honestly, I like that because, I like the fact that Rouge would say something like that. You not only have to be taught not to rape, you have to be taught by a feminist who's really fat, right, and unattractive or whatever, right? You have to be taught not to rape by, a really unattractive woman. Because, yeah. But, moving on. Unless, Alison, do you have something to say?
Not really. I'm wanting to get to something that's within my wheelhouse.
Okay, all right, moving on.
These aren't really the dating tips I was expecting. This is beginning to sound more like a conspiracy theory.
The bad news.
It's not. It's just the way things are.
How is statement of fact a conspiracy?
Not your conspiracy theory. Therefore, it's the opposite. Yeah. You don't want a world with no conspiracy theories, bruv. That's what's going on.
I don't get. Okay, I assume this man is a feminist. Feminists would say that men shouldn't get what they want because patriarchy gives it to them.
He's not. I think later on he says, "I'm not a feminist," but it's the same thing these days.
Okay.
Carry on.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, we haven't hit the bottom.
Do you think that eventually this will become a political movement? And if the answer is yes, I'd like to put in my application to work for you. That's not a joke.
Yeah, no, I think that these guys are not so the reporter went in thinking this is just about guys getting laid. No, that's not what this is all about. That's definitely part of it, but it's not all of what this is about. This is about guys wanting to find an identity that they can be proud of, right, in a culture that does not allow them to be proud. And they're appealing to a guy who says, you don't have to be ashamed of yourself.
Okay.
I have a daughter, and sometimes I do fear for her upbringing. I think I'm doing a fairly good job. I try and set, a good moral guideline for her to follow. But what am I going to do to stop?
Sorry, it's just the limit.
Yeah, we know.
The worst of what we see in society today.
You should give her a man to marry at a young age, 18. At least when she's 30, you have 3 or 4 grandkids.
Another editing hack job, by the way. I'm pretty sure that wasn't his direct answer to that actual question.
Yeah, no, it was essentially you should give her a man to marry at a young 18.
Okay, and can I point something out? These are the horrible patriarchal oppressors, and once again, this is so hilarious because remember Dear Daddy that we did yesterday, Karen?
Yeah, I know.
And this is the room of horrible patriarchal oppressors, and what's the first fucking question? How can I protect my daughter?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Well, that wasn't the question. It was how do I stop her from becoming the worst in this society? Because Rush was.
Yeah, but the problem is that when he says, how do I stop her from becoming the worst in the society? How do I stop her from becoming a laudette? How do I stop her from the morally wrong decisions that will, or the, I guess, ethically wrong decisions, or the decisions that will lead her to put herself in harm's way, right? Because most of morality as applies to women is designed to keep them out of harm's way, to keep them from making mistakes that are extremely costly. So, the condemnation of promiscuity in women and the expectation of chastity, that was all designed to keep women from crippling their futures by becoming single mothers, right? That's essentially what those norms existed to serve, to protect those women from the being in the gutter with a baby, which is what it was like if you were pregnant or gave birth out of wedlock 150 years ago, before all of the changes to the law made it so that you could hold a man responsible financially for a child that was not born within the bounds of marriage.
Okay. Did he actually say that she become the worst or be experienced the worst? Because I thought he said he wants to protect her from the worst.
But no, because Roos was talking about the bad things that women become, and I'm pretty sure he was asking, how do I guide my daughter in the right direction so that she doesn't become, one of those people.
But one of the problems with that too is that so much of the bad behavior on the part of women these days actually does lead them into situations that will do them harm.
Can we reverse it a bit and find out exactly what was said? Yeah.
Her upbringing. I think I'm doing a fairly good job. I try and set, a good moral guideline for her to follow. But what am I going to do to stop her from becoming the worst of what we see in society today?
Oh, okay, I see.
Again, it did cut away to Reggie's face briefly, and that's a classic sign of a hack job. They might have cut that up a bit. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah, because it's sort of ambiguous to me because the her isn't really enunciated very well. So I thought that what she said is protect her from the worst of society, not become the worst of society.
But
coming from but I'm not exactly. I barely understand English as it is. So.
Well, essentially, what he's asking Roosh is, how do I keep my daughter from being vulnerable to men like you?
Yeah, that's sort of funny.
Yep.
Although I would say that, to me, in my mind, probably the worst part of the pickup artist community is not how they treat men, not how they teach men to actually have one-night stands, but advocating for, you know what, I'm going to sound like I'm fucking MGTOW, but advocating for men to have relationships with women without simultaneously also advocating for the protections that they need to make sure that they don't become victims of those relationships.
Well, this is one of the things too that actually, 4 or 5 years ago in Roissy or Chateau Artiste or something, one of the big PUAs wrote a post essentially asking PUAs to lay off MRAs, right? Yes, okay, I know we all think they're cucks. I know we all think they're pussies. I know we all think they're losers, right? But if you ever are subjected to a false rape accusation, right? These are the guys who are actually working to make that not ruin your life, right? So you might want to rethink your attitude toward them.
Or if you actually want a long-term relationship, we are the ones who are going to probably try to get it so that you have a bit more. And this is an argument I had with a I think more of a pickup artist type person on Men's Rights Reddit. I mean, before we go to male superiority, which is what this individual is advocating, might we try just for equality? I don't advocate for male legal superiority, but it would be nice to have just legal equality. And you're going to have to, at some point, go through legal equality to get to legal superiority for men.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's I think, and we are the ones who are advocating for men to have protections. And even if you don't think, oh, well, men who are abused by women, they're just cucks, or men who experience sexual violence at the hand of women, fuck, they're whatever. Even if you think that, those kinds of protections will also protect male victims of false accusations, and give men a bit more of an equal footing in their relationships. Yeah. So if you're advocating that men lead their families, fine, that's fine. But at some point, you're going to have to advocate that we address the laws that are currently creating an unequal situation for men.
Yeah, no, the law needs to back you up. If you want to be the leader, if you want to be the man of the house, you actually need a system of laws that's going to actually at least treat you as an equal in your own home.
Yeah, and that, I mean, my personal thing is that I would stop it at legal equality. I don't think that legal superiority is really gonna fly in the current political climate. I have no fear that will ever happen.
Oh, after the apocalypse, it will. But
yeah, after the apocalypse, maybe, and it will happen specifically. It'll happen specifically because we need to create the social and emotional landscape that we can allow large amounts of men to be sacrificed in order to maintain society. But regardless, outside of that situation...
You might say some parts of the world have experienced such an apocalypse already.
Yes, you could say that. And
look up on it.
You could.
Yeah, but my point is that if we want to get to that, I think that if you want legal superiority of men to be legitimately recognized as the heads of their households, you sort of have to start by advocating for, and you know what, I shouldn't even say that because people are going to jump all over that shit and say, oh, I'm advocating for legal superiority. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that people who are saying, fuck those men's rights activists, they're cucks because they don't advocate for legal superiority of men. Well, let's start with legal equality.
Yeah.
Let's get some legal equality going.
Yeah.
And then we can. Yeah. I'm going to be totally.
Let's try and differentiate between the people asking for legal equality and the people asking for mad shit.
Well, but it's not just that they're asking for mad shit. Like, they're not. These individuals, these men in this thing, they're not doing anything to even get legal equality.
Yeah, no, and the thing is too is that
and they're mocking the people who are trying to.
Yeah, and I don't think that, like, I think that the whole idea of pickup artistry and game and all of that stuff is essentially there to compensate for the legal inequalities, right? It's essentially, it doesn't matter how easy it is for your wife to divorce you, and this is what's called long-term game, right? It doesn't matter how easy it is for your wife to divorce you or how much she can profit off of it and ruin your life. If you still keep her vagina tingling, if you still keep her begging you for sex, if you can make it so that she's always attracted to you, right? Just through your own way of being, the way you frame the interactions with your wife, then you don't have to worry about the legal inequalities, right? And that's a little bit of a pipe dream, in my opinion.
It sounds like advice that women give to each other quite a lot, doesn't it? If you can keep him just, teetering on the edge of always wanting, do women ever talk about this amongst themselves anywhere?
Yeah, no, but I'm getting what point Karen is making. You can sell men on this pipe dream that somehow they have the agency to prevent the women in their lives from destroying them. And then you conveniently call them cucks if they don't, and say they just didn't apply the theory or the practice enough to actually manage that. But
well, I think that it can work. It can work for some men. It doesn't work as well as it's portrayed to work. But I do think that it can work long term for some men to keep the sort of the furnace of female desire burning, right? And essentially redeem the man in the relationship. Like when it's essentially like you have this situation. There was a guy named Dave from Hawaii. I think he might have gone also by the name Hawaiian Libertarian, right? And he had a blog, and he talked about long-term game. He was in a position where his wife and him were quite wealthy, but always fighting, particularly over money, particularly over finances, blah, 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 blah. He started using certain strategies that he observed in his father-in-law. He said his father-in-law just had natural game, and all of the women in the family were like, oh, I love Daddy so much, he's just such a, like, I admire him so much, and the wife was like right there, like attentive and hanging on his every word, and he just sort of was this figure, this sort of almost mythical figure of masculine prowess. And he was like, and my wife, doesn't matter how much money I earn, doesn't matter what I do, she's complaining about it. And she's saying, you need to give me choices. And then when I give her choices, she's like, I feel out of control, and you should, give me something, I don't want to decide where to go for dinner, and things like they would literally have these huge screaming fights over where to go for dinner because he gave her the choice. And then he was just like, you know what? I watched how my father-in-law behaved with the women in his life, and I just decided I was going to emulate that. And all of a sudden, and he's like, I got laid off. I'm unemployed. We have like hardly any income, and suddenly, somehow, we're not fighting over money. We're not fighting over anything. We're not fighting over where to go for dinner. Nothing. And she's interested in me sexually. It was just like the most bizarre thing. So, essentially, I think that it can work to a degree, but no matter how good you are, there's always going to be someone out there who's better.
Well, as
long as the law sees you as equal, she's going to always be sort of scanning that one level above, not necessarily every woman, but many women, scanning that one level above to see if she can do better.
Well, no, I mean, or at least the current. This is a really bad day. The current inequality that sort of favors legal inequality that favors women. I mean, to use an example, in the province that I'm in, if I could literally seize my husband's assets, get him kicked out of the house in the next 30 minutes if I just made one phone call. That is a stupendous amount of legal inequality, and it's disgusting. But the what I'm trying to say in terms of what Karen is saying, it also puts men in the position where their futures are basically contingent on keeping women entertained.
Yeah.
So this is like a Sherazade, a 1001 Arabian Nights scenario. That I mean, sure, you can say, yeah, if you're as good as Sherazade, you can keep your head as a man, but it seems like
what bothers me about all of this, right, is not so much that like this particular system that Roosh is portraying is requiring men to be a certain way with their wives, right? In order to, fend off divorce and disaster, right? It's that the larger culture is telling them to do exactly the opposite. And many of these men might actually be naturally inclined to go the Roosh way, go the way of game, right? But they've been told by the culture that that's demeaning to women, it's male privilege, it's self-entitled, it's all kinds of stuff. So these men have been told all of their lives that if you behave in X manner, you'll get a good outcome, when in reality, and don't behave in Y manner, because that'll get you a bad outcome. So even the men who would be naturally inclined to behave in Y manner, right, will choose to behave in X manner, which gets you a bad outcome, right? No woman wants to live with a doormat. I'm sorry. No woman wants to have sex with a fucking doormat. It's just the way it is. But the whole culture is telling men that in order to actually be successful with, a long-term relationship, the way to be is a doormat. And so even men who would naturally not be inclined to be that way are like, well, I better fucking roll myself out in the fucking doorway, because this is the way to keep my wife happy. No, it's the way to make your wife miserable and your life miserable, right? So essentially what we have are these two competing points of view. And, there are men out there who really don't have far to go to embrace the I'm not a doormat strategy, right? Like, they've been told, be a doormat all their lives.
Okay.
So, all right, moving on.
You should give her a man to marry at a young age, 18. At least when she's 30, you have 3 or 4 grandkids.
Okay, how, Roosh? How is he supposed to arrange this?
Well,
did you hear the sudden jump cut after he said 3 or 4 and grandkids? 3 or 4 grandkids. It was another hack job. You hear these things once you've been taught to sort of hear them,
Okay, and here's the problem.
I want to hear the jump cut.
Today.
You should give her a man to marry at a young age, 18.
See, there was a jump cut.
Yes, there was a jump cut. Okay, so what's the point?
Okay, but let's
At least when she's 30, you have 3.
At least when she's 30, you have
4 grand.
All
yeah,
right.
no, heavily edited.
Yes, this is heavily edited. So essentially, we're giving opinions on the BBC's opinions on pickup artists. This is why I'm a little bit leery about talking too extensively about this, because we don't even fucking know if this is what Roosh said. This is filter through filter through filter through filter.
They just happen to have cut his head off at the top of the screen as well. So, you could be saying anything. Just why do you think you can get away with this?
Okay, so what we're doing, and we don't know, like, I mean, we can conjecture on what Roosh was intending. When we get to actual men's rights activists, we will have a better understanding of what they're butchering. Because right now we're just surmising what the fuck Roosh was getting at, and we may be getting it completely wrong.
You know what? I'm actually going to invite Roosh to come on a hangout on my channel and, sort of just talk about this experience of being interviewed for this. So I'm going to. Maybe he'll accept, maybe he won't. I know that he probably thinks that I should grow my hair long and that I'm 45, so I'm not bangable, but whatever. Anyhow, moving on.
Well, what does it matter? You're being banged nightly.
I know, more than nightly.
Yeah, it's like, what, you have so... Who cares?
Definitely more than fortnightly. Moving on.
She's going to be what? She's going to work in a job, one bad boy after the next. Many of you actually are going to use her.
There you go. See? How do I protect my daughter from men like you? That's what it is.
I don't think you should give her the freedom and the choice.
Okay.
What do you think about?
Well, because Dear Daddy is essentially change all of society to make me safe, rather than Dear Daddy, guide my behavior so that I am safe in the society that exists. So, yeah.
Oh God, these people are fucking idiots. They're basically two sides of the same gone stupid. Okay, I'm sorry.
Whatever. Like I'm still not offended by anything that he's said thus far.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's all this. It's basically two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, they're appealing to the father to control his daughter's behavior with what? With what laws? With what anything would he be able to do this? How is he going to
try raising your voice at your daughter in public?
Yeah,
Mr. Father, see what happens. One call to social services because you raised your voice at your daughter in public, and you're gone.
You know, what is he going to use? Is he going to radiate his masculine agency as his daughter to prevent her from doing? That doesn't work. He doesn't have any legal or social options. His hands are completely tied, and there's nothing that he can do. And the other one is Dear Daddy. It's exactly the same there's nothing that these people can do. There's nothing that these men can do to actually protect their daughters, because I think this is what was really being conveyed here. That he wants to protect his daughter from being in this exploitative situation. And there's nothing that he can do to force her to do something. And on the other hand, like, this is why I say they're two sides of the coin. Roosh is saying, force your daughter to do something, to do things against her will with absolutely no fucking way of enforcing your will on her. This other people are saying, oh, force society to not do these nasty things to your daughter. And once again, the father has absolutely no, even less, possibly, fucking ability to enforce his will on all of society. But the common denominator with both Roosh's speech and Dear Daddy is what? This idea that fathers need responsibility to make sure that their daughters are not hurt. That's the common, and in situations where they have absolutely no ability to affect the outcome. So it's this focus on the agency of the party who has the least control over the situation. The father has the least legal and socially almost no control over his daughter. Legal and socially no control over the fucking environment in which she is. And yet he is responsible.
Well, because if he takes a role of controlling any of that, he's just going to be seen as abusive, right?
Yeah, it's like, as soon as she's 18, she'll just... and that's... How do you manage this? The only way I would suggest is just be a good father. Be emotionally supportive. Teach your daughter to see her value in terms of what she does rather than who does her, or who desires her, and she'll probably sort herself out.
And for all we know, that might be what Roosh said, by the way. I need to keep adding this caveat, because all we're seeing here is the BBC's fucking Jackson Pollock cut and paste version of what he said.
True.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely true. All right, moving on.
It's been a much broader talk than I expected, in all honesty. I sort of came here expecting to hear how to pick up women, but it seems to be more about masculinity more than anything else.
Now, I take it that you have achieved a level of fame here. How have you leveraged that fame to sleep with the women that...
No doubt you have, sir.
I want to know that. Like, is it easy? Like, do girls just come up to you?
I've been doing
I don't like this particular tactic that Roosh is taking, because he's going straight for the personal things. But we skipped over what Reggie said before that. Was I thought this was going to be about picking up women, and it turned out just to be about masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of picking up women. Now, why is that your issue? I mean, this is edited by your fucking team of editors to make you look as good as possible, and still the best thing they could find you saying was this. Why is this about masculinity so much? What?
Yeah.
Dude. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
The other thing is that he would probably say picking up women is raping them or some shit, or manipulating them into having sex. Well, talking to a bunch of men about feeling more self-confident about their masculinity.
Yeah, or
protecting their daughters.
It does make sense that Roosh's response was to go for the personal, because Reggie had already gone for the personal by fucking up that bad.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
And I started in television when I was 8 years old, so this isn't new to me anymore.
Are you gay?
No. I'm actually engaged to be married. So
oh, okay.
That was the most offensive thing they could find him saying. You can tell. They focused in on that. Like, look how offensive this is! Ah!
Yeah,
really?
No, the guy, he says, how have you leveraged your fame to get laid? And he's like, well, I really haven't. I've been at this, but I'm engaged to be married. Oh, okay, never mind then. Right? Because, these pickup artists, right? These guys like Roosh, Return of Kings, all of these sort of traditionalist PUA hybrids, they're very, very respectful of the idea of marriage, right? So he would be like, oh, of course you're not leveraging it if you're engaged to be married.
Okay. Well, can I... Oh, wait, what was I going to say? Shit. Fuck, it was cool, too. I got such a squirrel brain.
It's part of what we do.
Yeah.
We can only because we have squirrel brains.
Yeah, that's right, because we're always gathering nuts.
Yeah.
And lovingly stroking those nuts.
And hoarding them and, licking them on occasion to see if they're still good.
Still salty. Yeah. Okay. So, the thing is that... So you're conjecturing that what Roosh was doing was essentially respecting his choice to have gotten married.
Oh yeah, no, I think that if you look at the Return of Kings website, it's very, very much pro-traditional, and Roosh is, I think that's a Roosh project. Maybe it's a Roisi project, I don't know. But there is this sort of attitude among a lot of these PUAs. It's a very, very much either or. Either you're banging everybody, or it's a traditional marriage, right? Where the man is the head of the household, and the woman is, her furnace is always burning for him, and she, and it's very, very traditional roles, right? So there's this huge dichotomy as far as either or.
So sort of like a Madonna whore thing going on.
It really is. But I think
men.
that yes, I think that these guys, a lot of them, not all of them, but I think a lot of them, and I've talked to a lot of sort of red pillars on Reddit and stuff like that. a lot of them have like a huge, deep respect for the tradition, the institution of marriage, and what it, like, as the essential building block of society, as the fabric upon which, the substrate upon which all of civilization has been built, right? And so when you look at that, like, you have this sort of, it's almost like the idea that a man would get married, that must be one hell of a woman if he's willing to actually commit the rest of his life to her, type thing. And that needs to be respected, that institution. Oh my fucking god, I'm gonna kill.
Okay, I'm gonna take over for a sec while Karen manages her errand.
Okay, I'm gonna mute.
Yeah, I gotcha. Alright, so one thing that happened is when we were interviewed by Vice, that would be Honey Badger Brigade at the International Conference on Men's Issues. We were interviewed by Vice. They took, I guess, a ridiculous little comment that I made out of context. Essentially, we got Karen to sing a couple verses of a song, and she looked so out of sorts, so put out, and so, like, just disheveled afterwards that I said, you look like you got raped. And they took that out of context.
They put a subtitle in. It's the only thing in the whole fucking scene that they felt the need to subtitle, but they put a little subtitle in saying, Karen looks like she's been raped. Ding!
It's like, I mean, people say that kind of shit all the time. And the absurdity of the comment is the fact that, forcing someone to sing and comparing it with something heinous like rape. That's what makes it funny, because rape is heinous. Did Vice, you don't find rape to be heinous? Because you don't find that to be funny? The juxtaposition of something truly innocuous with something heinous, that's what sparks the humor? Is what part of the equation are you missing? Is it the fact that you don't think that making someone sing is innocuous? Or is it the fact that you don't find rape heinous? Why don't you answer that, Vice?
Or have you forgotten that it's a woman saying it, so you should listen and believe, dickhead?
Alright, how are you doing there, Karen? I think she's still gone, and we're stuck until she comes back. So yeah, it's the media taking things out of context, and that's sort of why I'm hesitant to really, because personally I don't read Roosh, I don't follow Roosh. I'm not, and it's not that I'm not interested in him because I find him offensive. I'm not interested in him because I don't find him in my wheelhouse. I'm much more interested in more rarefied, crazy stuff, esoteric things, as it were.
Yeah. No, he's extremely traditional.
And not just traditional. Well, the problem is that extremely traditional included punishing men for extramarital sex. So I don't think he's that traditional.
Well, not necessarily. Was it punished men for extramarital sex that could harm their wives?
No, it was like Frank Sinatra going to jail for breach of promise laws. I think it punished men. I don't think there's any culture in history that was particularly favorable to the idea of men taking their pleasure with women.
Well, poor men, anyway. Rich men occasionally had mistresses and everyone turned a blind eye, but poor men, hell no, you get one woman and one woman only.
Or not even.
No, and the mistresses that the rich men had, it was essentially the major concern with that is, well, it was essentially, well, you're rich, so if this woman costs you any money, it's not going to put your wife in the poorhouse. So, anyhow, moving on. I didn't hear any of the previous discussion, really, because I was talking to my boyfriend, but on the phone.
Well, I was discussing how I raped you during the Vice interview.
Oh, yeah, you totally did. Fucking bitch. Anyhow, moving on.
Out of interest, just how big do you think what it is that you're doing here will actually get?
The sites that I run touch over 1 million people every month. And maybe they're not willing to come here and pay, but the ideas that I share is growing and growing.
All right, follow me out, lad.
They are.
Please. And then, just when I think no one will go on camera, two men agree to meet me outside. Adam runs his own business,
Okay, I'm just pausing it because I don't know how long you have to stop before it like actually makes a difference as far as the algorithms.
Should we skip ahead now? Because I think it's
20 seconds, Karen. 20 seconds.
Yeah, no, I mean like because essentially
This might actually be more in our wheelhouse though.
But essentially, like I let it run 10 seconds and then I stopped like for 2 seconds and then or a second and then I continued on. I don't know whether that second actually counts, is what I'm saying.
And Lorenzo, studying to be a barrister. So what is it that's actually brought you guys here today? Why have you decided to come down?
Well, what's brought me here really is I thought there's sort of a concerted attempt to shut men up.
There you go.
Dun dun dun!
Shut up! Shut that man up! Shut that man up! He's a misogynist.
Oh my God! He's saying that there's a concerted effort to shut men up. Let's shut him up. Okay, look. Yeah. Did you see this scare like zoom?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's fucking.
Oh yeah. Oh, and he's even blurred, right? Because the camera's zooming so fast.
Yeah. But, it's like, and Senator McCaskill's satirical, non-satirical, men should just shut up aside, but, you know, let's not shut these men up. Let's listen to them.
Okay.
Recently, right, the past few years, and we're sort of losing ground. The BBC doesn't have a great, you know, it doesn't get a great flack when it comes to these sort of things at all. They do seem to be on the side of what's right on.
Yeah.
And feminism is the fashionable cause.
What sort of man is attracted?
Yeah, feminism is the fashionable cause right now, at least in terms of the elites, not in terms of wider society. Thank you fucking very much, because less than 20% of people call themselves feminists.
It's not they didn't edit that out. That, you know, they didn't consider that a controversial thing to say. They thought, yes, we are perfectly in favour of, you know, we are the BBC, we're going to keep that edit in. We stand by that statement. We are a feminist institution. Give us your fucking money.
Oh, yeah, and you don't even give us. They take your money.
Yeah, they force them to take it if you want to have a TV. Okay, moving on.
Well, actually, I wanted to say something.
What?
All right. Feminism is fashionable. Yeah, of course it's fashionable. It teaches men that they're all powerful and women that they're all victims, and men and women love those two statements, respectively.
Yeah.
In particular, men who are fairly invulnerable because they're the elites. You know, they're relatively more invulnerable. I'm not going to say they are as vulnerable or aren't vulnerable at all. They particularly love that shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
What do you think? Somebody who wants to engage with a very international, as you can see, group of concerned fellow travellers who are interested in discussing these problems. I mean, look in here. These people are now mixing.
Sorry, I'm just freaking pausing it because we have to pause it
together, and very few of them have met one another before.
Yeah. The funny thing is, whilst these guys want to meet women, and that's what Rouge sells, some of them don't seem to like them very much. And
okay, wait a second. Is this guy saying it?
That sounds like his opinions, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the point of those two? They basically said nothing. What was the point of interviewing them if you're just gonna... whatever.
Yeah, well...
They're trying to cram quite a lot in.
Strong views from what, on face value, seems to be the meekest of the meek.
Earn Hudson's Bay rewards point.
Oh my God.
Muting you. So, the meekest of the meek. Is he saying those men were meek? Is that what he was saying, Mike?
He's saying it's ironic that the meekest of the meek have the most controversial views. I don't know what kind of language he's going to couch it in, but that's what he's saying. How weird it is that such meek people have such hateful views.
Well, the meek shall inherit the earth. I don't know. Let's find out what those views are, Karen.
You're still muted.
You're still muted, dear. Oh, why won't it let me unmute? Okay, just give me a second. Maybe I can unmute using the control panel. Do-do-do. Yeah, I can. Karen, speak.
Okay.
No, just don't do anything. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to mute you, and I'm going to try to unmute you. Or wait, actually, you're muted? Okay, I'm going to unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, did you have to unmute yourself?
No, I didn't.
Okay, apparently I can do it, it's just there's incredible lag. So we'll try that next time, when the echoing starts.
All right. Okay. Moving on.
And they have these views that are just unbelievable.
How are they unbelievable?
Yeah, it would be nice to get some examples.
That's the only language he can couch it in, and that's the only language he has to couch it in. He can just say it's unbelievable, and everyone's like, yeah, I can believe it.
Fuck. You know, like I just this is constant. This is a constant fucking theme, right? All of the rebuttal videos to Anita Sarkeesian's work, even including, and I read a RadFam blog post critiquing Anita Sarkeesian's work essentially to to say that it's not RadFem enough, right? She's never answered to any of that. She's never actually defended her views against anyone who's questioned them or criticized them or whatever, right? Never done it. And oh my goodness, the opposition to Anita Sarkeesian is unbelievable, right? Okay, well, how is it unbelievable? Somebody please fucking tell me.
They're not going to, because it's unbelievable.
Please just take it on a point-by-point basis and, you know, and counter the arguments, you know, refute the rebuttals, right? Like, just, like, enter into a fucking discourse. Don't just say, oh, these views are controversial and strange, and then that's it. That's all they need to say.
Oh, I guess that's all they need to do is just put up the "Do not go here" sign.
Yeah.
Because free, you know, they promote independent thinking and free speech.
Yeah.
That's all this guy did is he just puts up a sign, caution. Caution, wet floor, don't go. It's unbelievable how wet this floor is. Don't go and touch
dragons. Look at all the dragons. Stay away.
Yeah. Okay, let's go forward.
The thing that worries me most is that a lot of the ideas that are coming out of that room might be more commonplace than I probably assumed.
Yes, they are. And nobody has fucking cared. Nobody has given them a fucking fair hearing, and you won't give them a fair hearing either. So, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, how many... Okay, alright. Before you continue, Karen, like, let other people, like, get in here, too.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Open your heart. Alright. So, the thing is that what he said was he didn't actually elucidate the specific comments or ideas that were unbelievable. And now he's saying, I'm worried that there are more of them out there. I mean, why don't you just fairly engage with some of the shit that we actually talk, you know? And this is, first of all, like, I can't speak for Roosh, I can't speak for pickup artists, not my wheelhouse, whatever. But you're not really being fair. You've done a hatchet job on that particular meeting, so we don't even know what was actually said. You made that. You have created a particular vision of pickup artists, which you are then saying is unbelievable, and I'm worried that it's everywhere.
Honestly, if what was presented here is the worst, the most controversial shit that Roosh said in that presentation, right? I'm like, well, fuck, he spoke for 2 hours. I've said more controversial shit than that.
Yeah, actually, it is pretty innocuous.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's see what other horrible things he finds.
On that subject, by the way, the next thing he talks about is Dapper Laughs. Have you heard about Dapper Laughs? He's a laddish comedian that everyone hates, and he briefly had a job on the TV, and then he got taken away. So if you skip to 1530, this is where I can tell you where to skip to and why. It's just before the bit about men's rights advocates, but it's a good place to come in because it's Reggie's final thought on the subject of Dapper Laughs. Like 1534 32.
I'm going to mute you till you get into that area, Karen, and then I'm going to unmute you because I know that you're going to have to play an ad to get
You're
there.
14. Yeah, there's going to be an ad, yeah.
Okay, there you go. 15:30. I'm going to unmute you. Let's see if it works. Come on. Yep.
Yeah,
that all got emotional, and I can understand why. You know, this is a man who feels as though he lost his moment, his opportunity. But unfortunately, whether he wants to admit it to himself at the moment or not, he is.
Sorry, just
Yeah, we know.
Normalizing a certain level of humor that a lot of people find offensive, and a lot.
Okay, that's nothing, Reggie. You've said nothing. He's normalizing something that some people find offensive. That describes all comedy, Reg. It describes most things. And yet that's all you need to say. And everyone's just on board. Yeah, it's normalizing something some people find offensive. Get rid of it. Christianity is normalizing something some people find offensive. So is every religion. So is feminism.
So is atheism.
You never hold any group or any ideology or any individual to this standard. The standard of, if some people have a problem with it, ban it. But when someone comes along and you've decided they're a misogynist, suddenly that standard rises from the fucking grave and rules all things. Fuck you, Reg. You drank the Kool-Aid, so fuck you for now. But I hope you get better soon.
Okay, can I point something out? The people who use the offense to use offense in order to control others, or control what people can think, control people what people can find funny or talk about. You just confessed that you represent the status quo.
Yep.
You represent the moral status quo. So stop talking about being an underdog.
Stop talking about being progressive.
Yeah. Stop. Yeah. Your Puritan views on humor. Yeah. You fit right in with the status quo, with traditionalism, with everything regressive about humanity.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. That's like just accept it. I mean, fine, you can advance this shit, but if you want to control people by calling them offensive, you are the status quo. You are the ones in power. You are the ones who control the moral landscape. Or at least what you would consider polite company. You are those people. You control that.
Yeah.
Stop pretending to be the underdog.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely 100%.
Of people have a real problem with.
Real equality feminists today have a real problem with the mainstream feminists, because the mainstream feminists...
Real equality feminists today have a problem with mainstream feminists. Yes, they do.
Are radical Marxist feminists. Feminism.
How come we can't actually listen to what this man is saying? Reggie?
Because they have to play like some music to set the mood. That's
what
why.
A bunch of shit. I want to hear what he had to say.
Me too.
They have to edit it down. There's everyone's. The editings are very. You have to cut everything out, basically.
No, but okay, this is 55 minutes, and so far he's put nothing in of any kind of substance. Or we're only 16 minutes in. Maybe it comes to a crescendo of substance, but so far there's very little.
A crescendo, Alison. You're always going to disappoint yourself if you expect a crescendo.
Why? You just get fucking crescendo.
Just call it an orgasm, right? Disappointed when there's no splooge all over your face. Okay?
Let's carry on. This is finally the bit about men's rights advocates, and it's in Speaker's Corner.
Yeah.
It's a place in London where people can just turn.
Look at his platform.
Yeah, that's the official type sort of platforms they use. It's the modern day version of the pedestal. It's the least sort of pretentious pedestal they can produce. So that's what they use.
It's a soapbox. It's like a soapbox. You're standing on your soapbox. So it's a step ladder, not a soapbox, but it's about the same height. So there you go. Moving on.
Always been a place for people to meet and share controversial views, and today is no exception.
Men rape. That's all we hear about, that men are rapists and child abusers. This is what feminism has been talking about. Now,
What did this creature say?
Something
Okay,
about the penis. Release the penis, maybe? I don't know.
I'm backing it up so we can hear. Okay, shh.
No exception.
Men rape, men rape. That's all we hear about, that men are rapists and child abusers. This is what feminism has been talking about. Now,
Suffocate the penis?
Okay.
Let's just move on, yeah.
I'm moving it back a little bit.
talking about now.
It is suffocate the penis.
No, it's
Or is it release the penis?
maybe.
Okay, what the fuck?
We're not going to get it. Just move on. I'm already nauseous.
See, have you noticed what she did then? What she did is she simplifies things down to say that I'm a woman hater.
Okay. So she was essentially telling him that he's a misogynist because of penis.
Oh, so that's a thing beyond Mike Caru's, like, mockery of creepy bitter girl, which is, I think this was creepy bitter girl in 40 years, right there.
Yeah, I think so. I'm wondering why she's not throwing cats at him.
Yeah,
But-
penis, 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 penis.
Like the old lady, the old cat lady from like the what is it, The Simpsons, where she just like comes out of her house and throws cats at people.
Yeah.
Let's flip the script. Imagine a feminist stood up in Speaker's Corner and a man comes out of the crowd and yells, "Vagina!" Yeah, you feel a bit threatened, wouldn't you?
Because obviously he's thinking about her vagina and wanting to rape her.
That's entirely possible.
Mm.
No,
All
no,
right,
not with the guy, maybe the woman. Well, with both. Who knows? Let's.
Okay. Moving on.
Rod is a men's rights activist and is determined no one's going to shut him up.
Men don't need your help. They do need our help. They need our help very much. Our problem.
Well done. That got a bit intense, didn't it?
Yeah, men don't need help because men are strong and stoic, and also we should defeat the patriarchy by telling men they don't have to be strong. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I know.
Us, but you get heckled to pieces.
Do you think coming here to Speaker's Corner week on week is going to actually change anything?
Yes, because what happens, we often see a young man standing in the background, doesn't say anything, stays for hours.
There you go.
Yeah,
Thousands of them. Thousands of them, son.
Yeah, well, those are the young men who send us a message and say I was considering suicide, but after I've heard someone talk about the things that affect my life in a way that isn't mocking, but actually recognizing the pain that I'm going through, I've decided maybe not.
Yeah. Like,
that's
maybe there's somebody out there who at least understands me, even if they can't help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much people seem to just need to be heard and understood.
Yeah.
So yeah, Reggie, I'm imagining that guy has racked up quite a tally of people, young men, that he may have prevented from killing themselves. What have you done?
Oh, he made this documentary.
Mocking him. Yeah, mocking.
Yeah, well. All right, moving on.
Hello everybody, my name's Josh, I'm 18, I'm from Essex. In my spare time I do a YouTube channel and a blog about gender politics and men's issues.
Make more videos, Josh. Why don't you make more videos?
Jesus, I'm subscribed to you and I haven't seen anything coming down the pike for ages.
Stop going to Speaker's Corner. Make videos.
Yeah, Jesus. All right.
And Jay Cream did his animation. I want to see Cream's animation.
But it's very, 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 very brave for him as a young man to do this.
Oh God, yeah. I can't. Yeah, fuck.
So I like as much as we might want him to make more videos, this is probably much more potentially costly for him to do.
Yeah. I'm only saying this for motivational reasons, Josh. Do what you do, whatever the fuck that is, and keep doing it.
There you go. All right, moving on.
Another crowd gathered around a second speaker, but there's something different here.
What is the obstacle to getting
Notice
men's
how ominous that sounded. There's something different here. What is that? Reggie, I hope it's not one of those isms that all the social justice warriors talk about. Carry on.
Yeah. What is the obstacle to getting men's issues recognized?
So what is the problem with this speaker?
He's just a teenager.
He's just a teenager.
And yet already so radical.
Okay, and why
I believe
are we
it's called
listening to this?
ageism.
Why are we listening to Reggie's narration?
Rather than to what Josh has to say? Yeah, I know. All right, moving on.
Second speaker. But there's something different here.
What is the obstacle to getting men's issues addressed in society?
He's just a teenager.
People don't know what men's issues are. Domestic violence against men is not treated seriously. When new...
Just pausing it because I have
He's
to pause.
19, by the way. Like it's as though he reached into the fucking abyss and said, "What's the problem here? He's just a teenager. The last guy was just an old guy." Fuck you, Reg. Fuck you so hard.
Well, also this teenager is speaking a lot better, too.
Yeah.
Numerous places have done tests where they got women to hit men in public. People have laughed and taken videos and said, "Oh, he probably deserves it." And the opposite never happened. Thanks for listening.
There we go.
He might be 18, come to think of it. He's either 18 or 19. Yeah, either way, all you said was teenager. Yeah. What is he, 13? Yeah, no, he's fucking in university, dickhead.
Yeah, I think he was 17 when he started his channel, so...
And he speaks well, and he grounds the concepts with things that people can relate to, which is
Josh
really
is a
important.
legend. Josh is a leg end. Subscribe to him.
I subscribed to him, like, on his third fucking video that he ever put out.
Alright.
So, alright, moving on.
Just out of interest, what put this on your radar? Why would you say the issues that men are dealing with is such a problem for you?
Men's issues, I feel like there are far too, particularly young voices, there are far too few. I mean, we've got the Minister for...
Okay, I'm just pausing it because we have to.
Women and Equality here in the UK. We've got the European Parliament Committee on Women's Rights, and we've got UN Women. We have no comparative organisations for men. So I'm pretty confident that women's issues are being dealt with. Men's issues, not so much.
He's exactly right. It's the most amazing thing.
I hadn't expected young guys like this to be so angry about what they see as...
He's not angry, he's passionate.
Yeah, that's not anger. I'll show you anger.
Yeah,
I'll fucking show you anger.
Fucking stripe-shorted asshole.
Yeah, you want to see fucking anger, you watch this channel. We will bring the anger.
Fucking hell.
We do it in part because men aren't allowed to.
Yeah, you just projected anger onto this fucking teenager. He was stood there being perfectly polite, perfectly passionate. And then you fucking turn around and say, "Oh, he's angry," and then you walk away. Yeah, who's the genuinely angry one in this scenario, Reg? Yeah. The guy who's not fucking listening to anyone.
And I know why he finds this troubling. The reason why he's finding this troubling is because this boy, or this young man, is drawing an audience that is appreciative of what he has to say. Because he's a good speaker, he grounds his concepts, and he is explaining men's issues in a way that somehow is getting through to people. That's what Reggie is finding troubling.
He's telling the truth too, right? Like he's not lying about anything.
No, there's a difference, but there's a difference between lying and actually making concepts accessible. And this is what he's doing. He's making concepts, and that's what is troubling.
And you notice they tried to cut Bruce's speech up to make it as bad as possible. Presumably they did the same thing to Josh. They cut it up to make it as bad as possible. Couldn't find a scratch. Maybe somewhere in their heads they thought he was saying something wrong, but no.
Yeah, run the fuck away. Just turn around and run away. You can't actually handle this. You can't handle the truth because you, Reggie, are addicted to a version of reality that is not progressive. It is not fucking progressive to see women as the only ones with problems and men as the only ones who can help women with those problems. That's not progressive. You don't want to see men's problems because it makes you feel bad in your striped pants.
Yeah.
Coward.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, moving on, because I got to get going in about half an hour.
Discrimination against men. Meanwhile, Rush's world tour has rumbled onto Canada, but he's run into some local opposition.
The Toronto.
It's back and forth sort of amongst several other people now. Sort of Milo turns up twice, and Laurie Penny turns up at one point.
Do they acknowledge that Milo is gay?
I'm pretty sure they do, but yeah.
I don't think there's any need to acknowledge that Milo is gay. But
if you want the highlights, sort of Milo turns up at 20 minutes 48 and 42, 41. Laurie Penny turns up at 23:30. I haven't watched the conversation, but presumably that's quite hilarious. And he starts talking about MGTOW at 36 minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay.
All right.
Does Karen show up anywhere?
I haven't. I've only sort of skipped over it to find a few sort of highlights.
Okay.
But she might be in
Karen?
there somewhere.
I'm sort of done with Rush. Just so you know,
his
I don't think
second
there's
of
anything more.
three appearances?
we have to.
Well, there's something interesting. There's the Anti-Feminism League, right?
Yeah,
No, but there's Milo. I saw the hair.
Yes.
Follow
we
the
did.
hair.
We're just going to continue on as we've been going. We're not going to skip ahead.
Toronto Media, Toronto Star, City News, every channel. I'm the leading newscast. Me, a random writer from the U.S. who wants to meet with 40 guys just to have fun with them and talk
Okay, and blah, 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 and talk to them.
to them.
But it's not just Roosh. With a few clicks, I'm starting to realize these kinds of views are easy to find. Now, this idea of what Roosh is about, what he stands for, seems to be a small part of a much bigger conversation because
I thought he was going to say a much bigger problem, but at least he said conversation.
on Roosh's website there is mention of this thing I've never heard of before, and it's called the Manosphere. No, it's a real thing. The Manosphere is a name given to an informal network of blogs, websites, and internet commentators that focuses on issues relating to men and masculinity, often in opposition to...
Are we part of the Manosphere or aren't we?
Oh, we are.
Okay.
If you have an opinion that favors men in any way, I think that qualifies you.
If you...
Whoa, Karen, you got abducted?
What?
You just had like this huge sound, and then we couldn't hear you anymore.
Oh, sorry. If you talk about men's issues and you're not feminist, then you're part of the Manosphere, essentially.
Feminism. There are sites for...
I saw Jasmine Newman in there. She's an Australian advocate for male domestic violence victims.
men interested in pickup tips.
Wait. Well, why would they say men interested in pickup tips while showing?
They showed her and then they showed other things. It's essentially they're just describing everything. Let's go back a few seconds. Okay, see Jasmine Newman?
Okay.
Right?
Sites for men interested in pickup tips, men's rights activism, and other groups I've never heard of. Across the board, sex, bodybuilding, and issues like divorce and unemployment come up again and again.
Yeah, I wonder fucking why.
But the hottest
Sex and
topic...
bodybuilding?
Did you just throw bodybuilding into the middle of divorce and something other?
No, he did. Of course he did, because that's also part of sort of an online community of men talking about men and masculinity and how to live as men and all of this other stuff. Look at Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is extremely popular among PUA types, men's rights types, like fucking red pill types, all of these freaking, traditionalists, all of this, even though he's quite subversive, quite, essentially like talking about the taboo topics, right? He's very much popular among like a vast swath of, people who are into MMA and do you even lift?
People who remember the Man Show, basically. Yeah,
no,
there's
like,
the Adam Carolla crew and the Jimmy Kimmel crew, and then there's the lower tier of the Joe Rogan crew and the Doug Stanhope crew, building it from the ground up, you know.
well, I mean, it's just like you have a tremendous overlap between all of these sort of male communities that are devoted to talking about men and masculinity. You absolutely do. So,
And then, but we're not really a male community.
well, okay, but here's Judgy Bitch, right?
Yeah, but he also put Jasmine, and I wouldn't say. I mean, the thing is that I think that I'm not saying that I necessarily want to distance myself from the manosphere. I just think it's inaccurate because you want to see it as like a male space, right?
Well, yeah, but no, I think that most of the manosphere is not exclusive in that way. It's sort of like, yeah, no, we want feedback from women. We want some, if there are cool women around, like, yeah, no, we want to hear about what you think. And
well, maybe for you, but I'm definitely not cool. I'm cunty.
I don't think the manosphere is supposed to be like a male exclusive space, like a male only space.
Who the hell told you cunty isn't cool? Cunty is.
It's not the fucking He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Okay, well let's keep going then.
Okay.
Feminism. I've never really been in an environment where anyone at any point has ever said that they have an issue with feminism.
Oh, I know, because you're fucking part of the progressive media, you cunt.
Okay. What does that mean? That means you've never exposed yourself to a point of view that you don't agree with, okay?
You've been doing this since you were 8 years old, remember? You've been in the performing arts business since you were 8 years old. That's mostly fucking lefty hipsters who fall for this hook, line, and sinker.
44-1. 44-1 of the faculty in the humanities, the liberal arts, and social science in the US, Canada, and the UK, 44-1 would vote Democrat over Republican, would vote NDP.
And Karen, I had to mute you for a sec because you were going roboto, and it was getting worse. And hopefully you'll be unmuted.
She was a bit snippy, but not robotic for me.
Oh, really? Okay, well maybe it's just me. No, you're good. I can actually mute and unmute you.
Fucking God. But anyhow,
I have the power of God.
In the faculties of the arts, in the humanities, in everything that deals with media, entertainment, fucking the press, journalism, freaking social work, K-12 education, all of those things, economics, political science, running for office, all of those fucking things, 44-1. Progressive faculty to people who describe themselves as conservative. 44-1. What you took in school and the entire freaking realm that you immersed yourself in since you were 8 years old in the performing arts, right? Completely dominated by progressives, by feminists, by people who are pro-feminist. So, you've never been exposed to a viewpoint that's different from your own. Shocker.
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Something that everyone in the modern world thought, but oh, how wrong am I?
Yeah, you are.
Growing up with 4 sisters, you want to see them blossom, and you don't see anything that can help that as being negative. But being at Rush's seminar, the word feminism seemed to come up over and over again.
Yes, it did. I wonder why.
And it was never presented in a positive light.
I wonder why.
But that's evidence that Rush is a horrible, horrible bastard. Not that feminism might have something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I like how how he subtly did this. I just realized that, and that's how subtly he did it. He tied feminism with benefiting with his sister's blossoming. Because, of course, teaching women to adopt a posture of submissive victimhood is entirely synonymous with them blossoming as anything. Well, as victims, I guess.
Of course.
No, no, Reggie, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You do not get to make the connection between feminism and benefiting women. Because feminists are the only people, it's suspiciously, they're the only people in society that don't have to question if their beliefs hurt women. And I'm afraid that I get a little bit suspicious about a group of people that never questions that, saying, "Oh yeah, of course, we benefit women." You can't question if we do. You can't say, "Do you really?" You just have to accept that we do. We do. We're never going to question if we don't. We're not. We're just going to call everyone misogynist if you ask that question. Do you ever question this? No. No sale, Reggie. You don't get to make that association.
And if someone comes along claiming that they benefit men, are you going to question them, Reg? You are, aren't you? If anyone anywhere in society tries to benefit men, you're going to question whether they're really benefiting men, aren't you? You're going to question anyone who tries to benefit men, aren't you?
He's not going to question whether they're really benefiting men. He's going to question whether men should be benefited at all, because any benefit to men comes at the expense of women.
Or some shit. Well, I mean, but you know, like, I get where Mike is coming from, though, because we get that. Oh yeah, you're exploiting men by telling them what they want to hear.
By instigating them into a victim mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Almost everyone here is choosing to hide their identity, just like Arusha's talk. But there is one name.
Okay, if we're part of the Manosphere, we're not choosing to hide our identity, Reggie. You know what my identity is? My identity is Alison Tiemann. You want my phone number and my fucking address? P.O. Box. I'll give you a P.O. Box. P.O. Box 990, Kelvington, Saskatchewan, SOA 1WO.
My white pages doxed me.
Yeah. Like, fuck you.
I have told you the company I work for. Everyone's fucking heard of it. Call them. Tell them everything you know. Do it. Come at me, bro.
God damn it.
Okay.
All the time, and he's a real person. All hail.
Oh, yeah, because none of the people who are even hiding their identities are real people. Not the ones who are hiding their identities, often for good reason. They're not real people. Milo is a real person, but not Stardust or Barbarossa or, you know.
Yeah, and it's funny that these poor women like Anita Sarkeesian have to go into hiding on the Colbert Report. Yeah, because they're under attack from all these anonymous people who don't have to go into hiding at all.
Yeah.
Despite being anonymous.
Yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right, moving on.
Milo Yiannopoulos, may he watch over you. LOL, that guy's awesome. British journalist Milo Yiannopoulos has written for The Telegraph, news sites, and has his face all over YouTube. He seems to have done an incredible job of continuously arguing with journalists and politicians and feminists, and people love him.
Yes, they do. They do. That's a Paul Joseph Watson video, actually. I quite enjoyed that one.
Why doesn't she have a crack? Oh, I guess it's photoshopping that thing on there.
Yeah, I think so. But Paul Joseph Watson, I quite like his work. He's connected with Alex Jones, and I don't like that particular connection just because Alex Jones, even though a lot of his facts actually sort of wash out as, you know, legitimate, he's a bit of a conspiracy nut. But Paul Joseph Watson is quite...
He had to go at a couple of video responses. He's having fun with it, is Paul. I like him.
Oh, yeah, no. I love it when he puts on the bright red wig, you know.
Yeah, he's a very serious guy. Even when you see him in interviews, he's a very sort of stone-faced guy. But you could tell there's this streak of sort of fun in him.
Playfulness, yeah, where he mocks the opposition. Yeah, I like him a lot. But okay, moving on.
Does feminism make women ugly? This is a piece that Milo's actually written. He feels like someone that I need to have a chat with.
I think he is. I wonder what you're going to keep in and what you're going to leave out.
And it turns out, with a growing profile as a self-proclaimed anti-feminist, Milo is only too happy to meet with me. Nice to meet you. Good to meet you too. Good to meet you too. How are you? Yeah, good, thanks. Listen, you are the perfect person for me to speak to at this point. I met Rushfi.
Oh, he's got no roots whatsoever. This can't have been done recently, unless he's bleached his hair again. Because he's almost all brunette again, almost all dark again. So.
Okay, so he says he's seen Roosh.
It was a plan to track the continuity the whole time. It's brilliant. Like you can't pretend he said this when he didn't, because you can tell the exact length of the roots. Sorry,
yeah.
Karen and Alison.
Right.
Very recently. Okay, cool. And I've sort of been made hip to this whole idea of the Manosphere. Can you sort of explain to me what the Manosphere is broken up into? Yeah.
All right. So he says, I've just spoken to Roosh, and Milo's like, oh, okay. Does Milo know who Roosh is? I guess he would.
I think so, yeah.
But why would he necessarily? I mean, is there a strong connection? Like he's sort of implying, Reggie is sort of implying that there's some sort of connection between Milo and Roosh.
I think I don't know. Like he may have been like, it may have been just like yesterday I just spoke to Roosh and now I'm talking to you or whatever. They may have discussed it beforehand.
You're both people under the misogynist radar. By the way, the misogynist radar doesn't exist. We live in a patriarchy. But tell me about the misogynist radar you're under.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think this is poisoning the well insofar as he's already displayed Roosh as being, I don't know, the same as wanting Sharia law or something.
Yeah. What?
Oh no. Are you being called away, Karen? Okay. She's apparently no longer paying attention to us.
I am paying attention. I just had a moment where my child was like, I need to talk to you. Are you on a live stream? What do you want? Nothing? Okay.
All right.
He just wanted to bug me. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very eccentric sort of group of men who feel dissatisfied with the way the society is going, the way that the relationships between men and women are organised. And I think a lot of men are feeling as though their traditional role as provider has been, diluted to such a point where they're not really sure what they're supposed to be there for anymore.
Oh. I hate to say it, Karen, but they must have found Milo on a very not a very, very gay day. Yeah. I'm not getting the sense that I don't get any obvious clues to his sexuality.
Not super flamboyant today, no.
No.
I'm sneezing and I may sneeze more.
That's okay.
The pickup artists, people like Roosh, do for these guys is give them a renewed sense of purpose. A lot of these young boys are very worried that they will be alone forever. A lot of them are worried they won't ever get good jobs and they will never get a decent pension. And
oh my goodness, that's like
very sympathetic, actually.
That's quite amazing.
They're just looking for financial and political gain.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
And they sort of just don't know where they fit. It kind of feels like it's two sides going against each other. You've got the Manosphere and all the permutations of that, and then you've got feminism. Yes. What's your take on that?
What's happened to feminism in the last sort of 20 years is it's become very tied up with very far left activist politics. And
I would say that feminism just has gone insane.
Well,
probably was a little insane from the beginning.
Yeah, I would say that it was pretty crazy from the beginning, and it's only just followed that. Like
no one can really tell when the beginning was.
Yeah, but if you if you look at the rhetoric of the second wave, right, Catherine McKinnon, talking about how nuclear family, and marriage need to be abolished, and children need to be raised communally by the state in order for women to be liberated and things like that. I mean, it's not just the last 10 or 20 years that feminism has been aligned with the political left to the point of, sort of Bolshevism. Not at all, right? It's been there the whole time. If you look at the Declaration of Sentiments, it reads like the Communist Manifesto, just instead of bourgeoisie and proletariat, you have men and women, right? So it's all the same kind of way of looking at interpersonal relations, all the way down to how families arrange themselves as a political statement, right?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'm like, what time is it right now? Fuck.
4:40 or 3:47.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go pretty quick because I'm looking at the amount of snow that fell this afternoon, and I'm thinking I'm gonna require extra time to get where I need to go.
All right.
So I've got another 6 minutes or so, and then I've got to sign off. So let's move
we're
on.
missing it in the section that's devoted to. Well, you know what? Maybe we should do a part 2 on Monday.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do maybe even a part 3. So just get over it. Okay.
I'm over it.
All right. Moving on.
This particular brand of feminism, which says that women shouldn't just be equal to men, but should be the same as men. If they want to sort of grow their hair and get fat, then they should be allowed to, ignores basic biological realities, and it also ignores some of the things that are different about men and women and different ways that men and women look for happiness.
Yes.
Biotruther, burn the biotruther.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my problem with feminism isn't as that it gives license for women to get fat and hairy, for obvious reasons, since I'm both. My problem with feminism is it's refusing to acknowledge victims of domestic violence who are male or victims of rape, and actually distorting government statistics in order to prevent the visible, in order to prevent the fact that recognition of the fact that men are a significant number of rape victims, a significant number of those victims of domestic violence, and also that feminism doesn't seem to says cry me a river when we talk about suicide, the suicide of men. And that's what pisses me off about feminism. I really, you know what? Who gives a shit if women want to look like dwarves? I mean, like Gimli. Okay, that's incidental to me, but whatever.
Well, there is seemingly this there is a blanket denial of biological reality at the exact same time that there's like a massive exploitation of it, right? So essentially you have feminists simultaneously saying that there's no difference between men and women, and there's no such thing as a universal aesthetic as far as women go, and there is absolutely 100% a universal, culturally universal aesthetic as far as what men find attractive in women and things like that. It's not, there are variations, but there are some rock solid across cultures preferences on the part of men, right, that all have to do with biology, right, that all have to do with fitness, mate fitness, reproductive fitness. And so essentially feminists want to erase all that. They want to deny all of that exists. At the same time, they want to exploit the way we perceive men and women. We perceive men as more likely to be threatening than women, and all of these things. And right, and so they're exploiting the very biological realities that they're denying exist in order to further their ridiculous dogma that there are no biological differences and there's no sort of universal way of perceiving men and women and all of these things, right? So it's like the entire ideology is completely incoherent, and how is that going to work? How is that going to turn out well? Right? Like they're so obsessed, right? These feminists are so obsessed with getting women, 50% women on corporate boards and 50% women in parliament, right? They're happy to ignore male suicide till the cows come home, until those goals are reached, even though those goals are probably unattainable. And they're particularly unattainable under a feminist regime that reinforces the very things, the very ways we view men and women, and the very ways men and women view themselves, that lead to those disparate outcomes at those high levels of achievement. So it's just like completely, it's a completely fucked up way of approaching things. So I wouldn't say that what he's saying here is irrelevant. I wouldn't say that at all. I would say that that's not maybe your primary concern or even my primary concern, but because these feminists are simultaneously denying any of these differences and these things exist while they're also exploiting them in order to get what they want, right? It's a recipe for disaster. That's all I'm saying.
Well, okay, that's fair, albeit what that may be. This does sort of make it seem a little superficial, talking about hairiness and fatness. When
whatever, yeah, it does.
And to get across the point that they're advancing they're trying to deny bio-truths while exploiting them. I don't think that really came across. I think that this is heavily edited.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna go one more go, and then maybe another one after this, and then I gotta go.
The state of gender relations, the understanding and happiness between the two sexes, is at its worst probably for 100 years. And I think that you could reasonably say that feminism has a large part to play in that.
Oh, I don't know. Why? Why would that be? Is that like because it's been the only fucking gender movement in existence for that time? And so maybe gender relations being poor might have something to do with the existence of feminism. I don't understand what you're talking about, Milo. All right, moving on.
Now I find these views surprising.
Yeah, you would. Fucking progressive.
I have finally encountered something that isn't part of my echo chamber.
Yeah.
Yep. Anti-feminism. Yep. I don't know if anybody understands that reference.
Yep. Oh. Yep. All right, moving on. Obsessed history, damn it.
Isn't it?
Sorry, Mike, say that again.
Oh, that's a good note to go out on, I think.
Okay, all right. You want to go out there?
No,
I think.
It looks like Reggie and Milo might be having a moment.
I
gotta go.
We're approaching Karen's time, yeah.
I fucking have to go. I can't stay any longer, so I think we're gonna have to just.
I'm
leave
encountering something alien.
2244. Okay.
2244.
Yeah, 2244 is very easy to remember.
Remind yourself of it. It's on the internet now.
Yeah, but Karen never looks at anything. She never looks. She's like a Rolling Stone or a High Plains drifter. She never looks at where she's been. She only looks at where she's going with a hard, squinty eye at the horizon.
Yeah. I'm like John Wayne that way, or Clint Eastwood, fistful of fucking dollars, 2 mules for Sister Sarah.
Yeah.
That's me.
All right. Well, let's wave goodbye to Karen as she.
I'm trying to find something suitable to wear for the Christmas party that I have to go to.
As she's riding towards the horizon.
I'm actually literally changing my clothes right now. I'm half naked.
Dress as Santa. Wear a Santa outfit. That'd be weirdly hot, actually.
I don't actually have a Santa outfit, but thanks anyway for the suggestion.
Okay, well, I'm going to end this so you can get going. And,
all right.
Yeah, so thank you for listening. If you, if you enjoy this kind of ribald, commentary, please consider becoming a patron. www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio.
Give it to us.
All of it. Give it to us.